This is a CBC News special presentation.
They are the world's most famous couple, glamorous, photogenic, and royal. Someday he will be Canada's king, she our queen. Their children oblivious to their fame, the most recognizable kids on the planet. Together, the Cambridges are out to modernize the monarchy, looking to appeal to a whole new generation. For the next week, starting tonight, they're in Canada to do just that. And there you're looking at the people who've gathered here on the grounds of the British Columbia Legislature here in Victoria to welcome the Cambridges, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, their children, George and Charlotte. This is still 90 minutes away from when they're arriving here in downtown Victoria, but still thousands have gathered already. Many of them been gathering all day, and there are a lot more to come, one assumes, over these next 90 minutes. What are they waiting for? They're waiting for the arrival about 25 kilometers away from here at the Victoria Airport. Things look pretty quiet out there right now, as they should be, because the plane is still, as we say, about a half an hour away from landing at Victoria. Then there's the travel into the city of Victoria, some crowds along the way, but also some beauties. They're going to be dropping the kids off at BC Government House, which is the residence of the Lieutenant Governor. So that's the scene. We've got it covered both at the airport and, of course, down here in downtown Victoria at the BC Legislature. And hello there, I'm Peter Mansbridge, looking forward over these next couple of hours to bringing you live coverage of the arrival of Will and Kate and their kids here in Canada. One more time, for Will and Kate, it's their second visit. For the children, George and Charlotte, it is their first. So how are we going to cover all this? We've got the people to do it, and let me introduce them to you. Starting with Andrew Chang, who is covering things here at the Legislature grounds and will be watching closely when the royal couple arrive. Natalie Collada there in the middle is also watching things here at the Legislature. And then out at the airport, where we're going to start, with Briar Stewart, who gets the job of watching things at the airport when the royal plane is due to touch down after a long, lengthy flight, about 8 or 9 hours from London. And Briar, what's the mood out there at the airport as they wait? It's very much an official welcome out there.
It is. It's an official welcome, and I have to tell you, there's a lot of anticipation. I'm here, and so are about 80 to 90 other representatives from the media, a lot of international media, of course, media from the UK. And where they're arriving here, it's basically a closed military base, part of the airport. So this is a helicopter squadron. So this is closed off to the public. But even given that, and even all of the notices about how public were not welcome here, there are members of the public lining the highway, holding their cell phones, just hoping to get a glimpse or a picture of the convoy as it goes by. Now, we did see some of the vehicles pull up in that convoy earlier. It looks like it will be quite a lengthy one. I counted about 14 vehicles. We understand that the Prime Minister is already here on the ground. He'll be joined by other officials, including the Governor General, to basically welcome the royals. And I said there's a lot of anticipation. And one of the reasons everybody here is so focused is, of course, because of Prince George and Princess Charlotte. We don't really have a lot of images of them. You mentioned them being kind of the most famous children in the world, but there hasn't been a lot of video or pictures, and really people aren't going to get a huge opportunity to see the children during the tour. This is really the first chance, so everybody's poised and ready with their cameras.
All right, Briar, thanks very much. And Briar's absolutely right, because those glimpses from the aircraft, once it's touched down, will be the glimpses that are shot around the world, and especially back home to Britain. We'll talk about that in a couple of moments. But let's stay on the grounds here at the BC Legislature, where Andrew Chang is watching. And Andrew's going to be watching, obviously, everything that happens here, but focusing to some degree on the other dignitaries who are here to be a part of the official welcoming. What can you tell us, Andrew?
Well, speaking of the dignitaries, I mean, I can tell you that there are some disappointed faces here that Prince George and Princess Charlotte will not be making an appearance here on the front lawn of the BC Legislature. But the thing that you realize very quickly, talking to people here, is that as many people who are here to see Prince William and Kate, there are just as many people here who are excited about seeing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And in my limited contact meeting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, it's hard to see him walking around in public without there being a handful of people who are wanting to take selfies with him, shake hands with him, get an autograph with him. So there is, in fact, that. But let me ask my camera guy, just to sort of pan around, and you can see some of the crowd here. The lawn of the Legislature should fill up as we get closer and closer to arrival time. But keep in mind, 99% of the people who are here will not actually get close enough to the royal couple to be able to shake their hand or to get a selfie with them or to say hi and get a hello back. But that doesn't matter to them. They're just excited to be here and to be able to soak in the atmosphere. And just one more thing, I met a guy today who had a Victoria Royals jersey on. They're a Canadian Major Junior hockey team, and he had a bouquet of flowers that he wants to give to Kate Middleton. Not that he's expecting to be able to get close enough to do that, but he's hoping.
We test the audio for our broadcast partners around the world.
That'll be interesting to see how he makes out on that one. All right, Andrew, thank you. And just to clarify, Andrew's absolutely right. We're not going to see the kids here at the BC Legislative Grounds. Keep in mind, it's been a long flight, 8 or 9 hours. They're out of sync on jet lag. Those kids, especially Charlotte, Princess Charlotte, at only less than 2 years old, is probably going to be pretty tired. Nevertheless, there will be a lineup to see Will and Kate, and as Andrew mentioned, also Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. One of the British papers today calling it kind of the battle of the celebrity rock stars in terms of those two couples. We'll hear more about that, I'm sure, in the next couple of hours. Let's go back on the grounds. Natalie Coletta is talking to many of the people, the thousands who've been arriving here already, and still many more to come. Natalie, what are they saying?
Well, many of them, as you mentioned, very excited to see William and Kate. People of all different ages here lined up. You can now see the row of the red carpet, 4 or 5 rows deep. In fact, people have been here, Peter, since 4:30 in the morning. I spoke to someone who got here early. They wanted to make sure that they had a good spot. They wanted to see the royal couple, very eager, because there are people of all different generations here. Young kids, older people as well, people who have seen William as a kid, seen him grow up, to marry, of course, Catherine Middleton, now to be a father. So very excited to see this new progression, this new state and where he is now in his life, but also those younger individuals who really have only known him from where he is now, young children who are very excited to see His Royal Highness William, but also Catherine Middleton as well. She is quite a draw for people, and of course the different causes has also attracted a lot of excitement with the crowd for the different places that they're focusing on. For some people, they were telling me really this reminds them of Diana, William's late mother, very much the same kind of causes. Interesting, hard topics for some people to discuss, and as you mentioned earlier, talking a lot about Indigenous issues, about the environment, about conservation areas that are very dear and near to Prince William's heart. Peter?
All right, Natalie, thanks very much. So that's how we got things covered on the ground, with Briar out at the airport, Natalie and Andrew here at the BC Legislature. But also, we're lucky enough to once again have Katie Nicholl with us, and if you watched our coverage in June from London for the Queen's 90th birthday, Katie was with us. Katie's author of Kate, the Royal Queen, not about herself, but of course about Kate, what was then Middleton before the marriage, and the future Queen. Katie Nicholl, royal correspondent for the Mail on Sunday and on Vanity Fair. A lot of British journalists here watching this today. Why is it such a big deal in Britain?
I think, to be honest, anywhere that this couple travel, they do put the international spotlight on the royal family. I think this trip is all about projecting the image of the new modern royal family, and William and Kate are the true and ultimate ambassadors to do that. But why so much attention on this tour? The answer is Charlotte. We've seen very, very little of her in the UK.
We're not going to see a lot of her here, but
You'll see more than we've seen in the UK, that's for sure. This will be, for us as well, only the 4th time that we've seen Charlotte. We saw her, of course, when she left hospital, at the christening, most recently when you and I were together for Trooping the Colour, and now. So we've seen very little of both of the children. It's been a very deliberate attempt by the couple to shelter them from the limelight, to keep them away from the media. And William, as you know, is hugely protective of his family's privacy. But today they will be making a very important public appearance as a family of 4. So all eyes, when that plane door opens, is going to be on those children.
And, you know, Katie's under pressure from the Mail on Sunday to be reporting for them as well as working with us, and you're going to have to file while we're on the air here back on what that airport scene is like.
Yes, I will be. Don't worry, you will have my full attention, audience, but I am doing what we women do best, which is multitask.
Multitasking, absolutely. Well, that picture, as you say, is going to be the highlight for some people of the day, because you'll see those kids for the first time traveling overseas. Well, sorry, George went to Australia, right, and New Zealand. But for young Charlotte, this is her first overseas trip.
Yeah, it's her first overseas trip, and a very, very important one. And I think, I was speaking to people gathered here earlier, and they were like, wow, it's such an honour, such a privilege for Canada to have been chosen. Remember, this is the only country that they've been to, the Cambridges, twice. Of course, they came here just weeks after the royal wedding. I covered that tour back in 2011. I remember the warmth from the people that they met. There was adoration from the very start for this couple. So one can only imagine that that's going to be tenfold with the arrival of the children now. And
it is a difference in terms of how the young children fit into this royal family, because in the past, and we saw it with Charles and Anne, that they didn't travel with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh in those early years. In fact, I think for Charles, the first time he came to Canada, he was like 21 or 22 years old. They didn't travel as kids with the family. Here, Will and Kate want to travel with their kids.
They do.
Not to show them off,
no.
But they want to be close to them.
I think that's the point, that as you pointed out, we're only going to see the children 3 times probably, of course, at the children's party on Thursday, when they're arriving and when they're leaving. This is not about bringing the children to every engagement. They're far too young for that, and it's certainly not the level of exposure that the couple want. But the fact is, they don't want to leave their children behind. So being able to travel in the comfort of a private jet, being able to have them at Government House, means that William and Kate can do this tour and be under the same sky as their own children. I think that's really important to them.
Well, and a tour it is. I mean, there's a lot packed into these 8 days. We want to give you a hint. We've given you a hint already. We want to be a little more specific as to exactly where they're going over the next days. So watch this. It officially kicks off with the welcome ceremony at the BC Legislature, a Victoria landmark since the buildings opened in 1898. The dignitaries will be out in force, but watch for young Victoria Foster. She has cystic fibrosis, and thanks to the Children's Wish Foundation, she will be presenting flowers to the Duchess. Sunday, the Duke and Duchess hop a seaplane to Vancouver. One of their stops will be at the Immigration Services Society, a one-of-a-kind facility helping more than 25,000 immigrants and refugees every year. The royal couple will take an aerial tour of the Great Bear Rainforest, home of the white spirit bears. A meeting with native elders will include a dedication of the forest. Day 4 starts off in Kelowna with a demonstration of women's volleyball. It's part of the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the University of British Columbia, Okanagan. Then they head for Whitehorse, Yukon. Prince William will inspect a guard of Canadian Rangers and Junior Rangers, of which he is an honorary member. Wednesday, they'll visit a fixture in Whitehorse, the McBride Museum, and soak up some local history. In Carcross, they'll experience local Indigenous traditions and culture, and later meet young bike riders who show them what it takes to conquer Montana Mountain. Your big George and Charlotte fix comes on day 6. Government House is hosting a children's tea party. Many of those in attendance will be families currently serving in the Canadian military. Friday, the Royals take a canoe trip from Skidegate Landing to the Haida Heritage Centre for a First Nations welcome. Later, they'll visit the island's new hospital. Their final day will again put the focus on one of the couple's passions, removing the stigma of mental health. They'll meet people from the Kelty Mental Health Resource Centre and sail a tall ship used to inspire and heal young people. And then at 3:40 local time, it's up and away out of the Victoria Harbour. All right, Briar's back with us to go over kind of the, can't put together a trip like this in a couple of minutes. This is a very big deal, a lot of logistics involved. It was kind of put together in a short period of time, but nevertheless, Briar, you've been to some of the briefings that the media have been given. Tell us about those logistics.
Well, in being at those briefings, it really just gives you a sense of how many people were involved in planning this, both here in Canada and, of course, in the UK. I mean, these things don't just plan themselves. It can take weeks, months to figure out every little logistic, and there's so many different things to consider here. They want to figure out, where is it that the Duke and Duchess would like to go? Last time they were in Canada in 2011, they didn't make it to British Columbia or Yukon, so these areas are, a good pick for them this time around. They have to figure out what communities they want to go to, and in British Columbia they're covering a lot of ground, and they're going to be in and out of airplanes, float planes, going up to the Great Bear Rainforest. And of course, because Prince George and Princess Charlotte are staying in Victoria, they're coming back to Victoria quite a bit to be able to spend that time as a family. There are security considerations that have to be taken into effect. We certainly see a large security present here. And then, of course, there's the media. There's a lot of international interest in the royal family. I'm told that more than 500 different media personnel are accredited for this tour. Certainly, the majority of those would be from Canada, but there's some here from the UK, from Australia, from other Commonwealth countries that are just, so interested in seeing this couple engage with Canadians, and of course, seeing more of the royal children, Peter.
All right, Briar, thanks very much. We'll be back to Briar in a few minutes when the plane lands and we get those first glimpses of the Cambridges here in Canada. Katie, I want to talk a little bit about this, because Briar hinted, suggested they were waiting for where do the Will and Kate actually want to go, which sounds like, really, do they really focus on this? Or is it their choice? But Miguel Head, who's the press secretary to Prince William, told me a few months ago that they were really focused on research and studying where they wanted to go.
Oh yeah, I mean they very much have an interest in where they're going to go. They have an input into the agenda. Of course, they're here at the invitation of the Canadian government, so a lot of it will be suggested by your people here. But if you look at the itinerary, there's a lot of focus on the things that the organisations, the initiatives that the couple are passionate about. Young people, that's a real key focal point for them, and the fact that they're wanting to meet young people over here, that's really part of the agenda. That's come from them together. The whole issue of mental health and overcoming the stigma of mental health, something else they do a lot of in the UK, and they want to see how things are done over here. They want to meet the First Nation people. They want to meet as many Canadians as possible. And then you look at their love of the outdoors, where you'll see that reflected in the itinerary. Of course, on Monday when they go to Bella Bella, when they're going up to Whitehorse, this is a sporty couple. The fact that they're going to be canoeing, they're going to be fishing. So I think it's very much an agenda that suits them and that they've been involved with. There's been a lot of input.
Well, they better be sporty and love the outdoors, because they're going to see a lot of it on this trip, as they did, quite frankly, on the last trip, which gives us an opportunity for a couple of minutes to look back at some of the visual highlights of that last trip that Will and Kate took to Canada, which was 2011, not long after the royal wedding. Watch this.
Accompagné que par la grande famille canadienne. It will improve as we go on.
Please repeat after me. I swear or affirm that I will be faithful and to bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me one more time in offering our warmest Canada Day welcome to their newly married Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
We have veterans here from the Second World War. We have veterans here from the Korean War.
Do we just eat as we go?
Yes, if you like. We're not fish.
Quite hungry.
You have to have fun.
I would like to say a special welcome to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
All right, we're keeping an eye, as you can see on the screen in the bottom right. The plane has landed carrying Will and Kate, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and their 2 children, George and Charlotte. So it usually takes 5 or 6 or 7 minutes at least for the plane to taxi into the right position and get the stairs up and the whole bit before we're actually going to see them. So we'll keep monitoring it on that screen, but keep watching, because this was quite the trip in 2011, and we'll get some glimpses here of the highlights for the next minute or so.
To be honest, I'm not eating that much lobster. Can they call that here?
We call that shit around here.
We are so excited to be here. Merci Joe. Hey, yeah, look. This could go anywhere.
It was the start of her journey, and she handled it amazingly well. She threw herself into it, whether it was dragon boat racing, all of the activities that they did. And like you say, it was a very busy, very active tour. I do remember noticing that on Walkabouts, she was a little shy, very overwhelmed. That was what really struck out to me, because, this is the first time she'd ever done anything like this, and I'm expecting to see on this tour a far more confident Duchess. She's done a lot of engagements since then. She's done quite a few overseas tours, so more confident.
More confident. That was a great scene. That was a wonderful moment for Will and Kate. And now it's Will and Kate and the kids, and we're going to see for our first glimpse of the family together in the next couple of minutes. If we can go to those pictures from the airport now, as everybody's sort of getting in position for the actual arrival, and when the plane taxis into position, all will be good. The flight, well, they were about 10 minutes early, which is not bad when you consider how long that flight is. But they're still a ways away from the area where they will be getting off the aircraft. And Briar, maybe you can give us a hint as to what's going on there, because the camera, the pictures we're watching, a lot of photographers getting ready with their special telephoto lenses and so on and so forth, but we're not seeing the plane yet.
Okay. No, not yet. We did see the plane. It came through here, and everybody was saying the same thing. Is that it? Is that it? Then finally an official did confirm that, yes, that was indeed the plane. It landed. It's now taxiing, and we're waiting for it to pull back out here in front. And as you mentioned, all the camera people are just poised and ready, including the CBC with our cameras here, trying to bring you those images as the royal family does exit the plane.
Briar, you covered the last tour, especially in the Calgary area. They were out there around the same time as the Stampede. Took part in it, actually. What are you looking for in differences between this time and last time?
I think what is really, I'm going to keep an eye out for is, are we going to see the same huge crowds that we did last time around? And you have to remember that when Will and Kate were here in 2011, it was just after their wedding. So there had been so much talk about this new royal couple. I mean, we carried the royal wedding live. There was just so much excitement. And a lot of that buzz was still in the air when they visited. So you did see a lot of young people that were perhaps maybe not so interested in the monarchy before coming out to these different engagements so they could catch a glimpse of them. I'll be interested to see whether or not you're seeing that again. You're seeing some of the younger generations here for it. And I do believe that the plane is taxiing down this way. It will be a little bit of a while before they pull up in front. Then, of course, we're going to see some of the Canadian officials come out and greet them. The Prime Minister will be here. The Governor General will be here. We understand that BC Premier Christy Clark will be here as well. And, they'll be greeting them. But I can tell you that every single one of the 80 or 90 camera people standing beside me, they are going to be so focused on Princess Charlotte and Prince George.
You got that right. Thanks, Briar. We're watching the Canadian Armed Forces jet that has brought the Cambridge family over from Britain on this flight. And if you're wondering how does that work, well, whenever members of the royal family are on official tours of a Commonwealth country, the flight arrangements, etc., are picked up by that Commonwealth country. So in this case, Canada is picking up the tab, Canadian taxpayers picking up the tab for the visit to Canada over these next 8 days. One thing to keep in mind in terms of crowd size, when Will and Kate were here in 2011, there were some huge crowds, upwards of 100,000 in Ottawa that day on Canada Day. On Parliament Hill, you're dealing with obviously areas where there's a much bigger population base than we're going to be seeing in some parts of this tour, where they're going to small, very small communities and areas, whether it's up the coast, Bella Bella, Haida Gwaii, all that, Carcross up in the Yukon. There is the Prince's Standard, which is up front and flying from the cockpit of the plane. There's a significantly sized entourage traveling with the royal couple here. Last time I think it was 7, this time 12.
That's right, Peter.
What's the difference?
Well, you'd expect a slightly bigger entourage because they're travelling with 2 young children, so they'll be bringing their nanny. That's Spanish-born Maria Baralo, who looks after the children full-time at home at Kensington Palace. Kate also has a hairdresser who she doesn't travel without. You can understand that because everyone will be looking at her hair and what she's wearing once we've all absorbed everything about the children. All eyes are on Kate. She's also got a stylist who now assists her on tours and helps her with her wardrobe. The Duke's travelling with 2 private secretaries. Kate's travelling with just 1, but you'd expect an orderly, someone to help them with their clothes and baggage, and of course tour secretaries. They'll be travelling with 4 press secretaries, which may sound like a lot, but they're packing 32 engagements into these 7 days, and there is worldwide press interest. It's not just Canada and Britain. The whole world will be watching this tour.
And you got a hungry media mob following it, trying to get the pictures like the one that's about to take place when that door's open and the stairs are down. So it will be, I guess understandable for an entourage of that size. Some of which they pay for themselves.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. They'll be picking up the bill for the nanny and also for the hairdresser. I think they're very mindful of the fact that it's the Canadian taxpayers who are picking up the cost of this trip. They don't want to be accused of being ostentatious and unnecessarily spending money. Of course, the biggest bill is always security, because they do travel with a huge team of security as they need to.
Justin Trudeau, his wife Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, and the Governor General David Johnston and Mrs. Johnston, and Christy Clark, the Premier of BC. They're all in attendance to be a part of that official welcome at the bottom of the stairs. Justin Trudeau getting the kind of play in Britain as he gets in some other countries.
Oh, absolutely. He's been getting a lot of airtime, a lot of media attention over there. I mean, he's young, he's good looking, and as you said earlier, Sophie Trudeau, these sort of we very much set them up in Britain as these 2 incredibly fashionable, glamorous first ladies of each of our countries. So we're going to be watching very closely.
They're cheering here down at the BC Legislature because they've got giant screens watching our coverage and the pictures coming out of the airport area, and so whenever they get a glimpse of people, they're cheering, and I'm sure you're going to hear the big cheer when they finally see the family getting off the aircraft.
It'll be just a matter of minutes before that door opens, and I can tell you there'll be a fair amount of prepping going on behind the scenes there, Peter. You know, the children will be having their hair combed, Kate will be having her touches up, because they're going to come off the plane. Like you said, it's a long flight, it's 9 hours. I wouldn't fancy doing that much, even in the comfort of a private jet with 2 young children. And they're going to want to look their very best. They're going to be hoping and praying, I'm sure, that the children are going to be on best behaviour, because you can't predict how a child's going to behave. And coming out and seeing that many cameras, it's overwhelming.
16-month-old Charlotte, that's going to be tough. You know, that kind of a long flight. Christy Clark's son Hamish, if you're wondering who that was, also in that grouping of the Governor General, the Prime Minister, and the Premier, and the Lieutenant Governor of BC is there as well. So, any moment you will see the arrival of the Cambridge family. You call them that?
Yep, we call them the
family?
Cambridges, absolutely.
Looks like they did color coordination on here. They're all wearing.
Well, you remember,
they're all
of course,
Natalie dressed here.
They are, and you remember last time when the Duchess arrived, she was very patriotic. She does like to dress for the country she's visiting, and previously she wore a lot of red on that tour of Canada, a lot of white. I think it was red that she arrived in. So it'd be interesting to see what colour she's opted for today.
And when you look back through histories of royal tours to this city, to Victoria, there are some significant moments. You know, it was 30 years ago this year that Will's parents, Charles and Diana, were here on an official tour. I remember that, here on the same lawn outside the BC Legislature. But you know, Edward, who was the future King, Edward VIII, was here in 1919. And of course the famous tour by George VI and the Queen Mother in 1939. They came through Victoria as well. So there are a lot of memories in this town, as I think Briar was saying at the beginning of our program, about how, you know, there's a lot of British in British Columbia and there's a lot of British in Victoria. It's a very kind of British town.
No, absolutely, and you know, William and Catherine will be very aware of that, and of course it'll be fresh, I'm sure, in William's mind that his mother and father came here quite a few times, and of course that tour you pointed out in '86, but you know, at that point cracks in the Wales's marriage were beginning to surface. This is a completely different tour with a happily married family with 2 gorgeous children. I think it's very much that promise of a bright modern monarchy, and I think that's why everyone's so excited here. I think that's why the mood is such a great one.
Well, they are excited and they're patient as well, and I think it probably is exactly what you're talking about. It's trying to get those kids organized in the sense of how's this actually going to work when they're coming off the plane, who's going to carry whom, and who's going to be walking, who's going to be carried, the whole bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair amount to sort out, isn't it? And you know, who knows? They could have been sleeping. I mean, that's the thing with travelling with young children, and they knew it was a big thing that they were doing, and we didn't get confirmation in the UK until really quite recently that the children were definitely going to be coming along. And I think that's because William and Kate really needed to be sure that they were up to doing this.
You know, I don't know what route they took, because they tend to keep these things secret in terms of that plane, but one of the routes you can take from London to Vancouver or Victoria, and you know, perhaps you took it yesterday when you came over, Katie, is the polar route. You literally go over, you know, the high Arctic regions, and in some cases fly right over the pole. So I'm not sure which route they took. That would, if it was that one, that's probably worth waking the kids up to point down and say, believe it or not, right down there.
Have a look at this. Yeah. Well, whatever route they took, Peter, it got them in slightly early. We were told initially that the schedule was going to be pushed back by 30 minutes, and they've arrived in, you know, bang on the moment that we were expecting them initially, and that's great. These royal tours do tend to run like clockwork, and when they say they're going to be there at a certain time, they always are.
Well, they're moving the stairs into place. So when that door opens and the family comes out, one of the big deals, we've mentioned this a couple of times, is this will be only, what, the third or fourth time that you've actually seen Charlotte, as opposed to handout pictures that might have been put out by the palace, but actually seen her, in a sense, in public.
That's right. That's right. It'll be the fourth time, Peter. We last saw her back in June for Trooping the Colour, and that was a real treat to see Charlotte on that balcony with her brother George for, of course, the Queen's 90th birthday celebrations. So.
And they were really well. You know, it's hard to predict young kids, right? And they were loving the moment and really well behaved in that.
Well, they were, until
moments.
George looked like he was going to pop himself over the Buckingham Palace balcony. It prompted an alarm from the Queen.
Okay, doors open. Special rugs and carpets put down and ensuring everything's in place. One assumes those are not only the Armed Forces members, but security officials as well. So we assume the next thing you're going to see is Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and the Duchess of Cambridge. Protocol line is all set up.
I'm sure they're probably just as nervous as everyone else is that it's all going to go to plan, Peter.
It is kind of funny, actually, when you consider they got everybody on edge here waiting for this moment, and all those British journalists like yourself who are looking at the clock, knowing the deadline.
Thinking, come on, it's
you're well past deadline here now.
Oh yeah, we're holding the paper for this. Those little children blissfully unaware of all the fuss that they've generated, all the excitement, all over them.
So what's your bet here? George is going to be walking. Charlotte's going to be...
I think George will be with Daddy, and I think the Duchess will probably be holding Charlotte. Whoever she's holding, she'll be having to navigate those stairs in a pair of heels, because she's rarely seen without the heels, the Duchess of Cambridge.
Well, there we go.
Here is the Duke.
Here he is.
And he's walking.
Well, there you go.
Little Charlotte in a very pretty dress there, being carried by Mum, as I predicted, who's wearing heels, as I predicted, and she's looking glorious in royal blue. Is that the maple brooch? I think it is, that's on loan from the Queen.
The Queen Mother's brooch, right?
That's right, and Kate was wearing that the last time that she was in Canada. Fabulous hat to keep her hair in check from the wind. And Charlotte, look, she's fixated by that helicopter coming in,
so
as is George. You can
Look
see
at
that. He's absolutely taken with it.
And it's a Sea King, which is what their father used to fly. So now in conversation with the Governor General, the Prime Minister. And Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. It's not often the Prime Minister is facing somebody the same size as him, same height. If anything, he's maybe even shorter than him.
Yes, well William has stature. They both do, Peter. They're both incredibly tall, the Duke and the Duchess. The children seem to be coping very well. No tears, no tantrums, on their best behaviour.
Well, we fact check that one. Prime Minister 6'2". The Prince is 6'4".
He does look a little overwhelmed, doesn't he? It's a lot to be taking in.
And, you know, they are not confronted with this kind of situation very often, where they're, you know, like in the public eye, they're in this kind of official line. Charlotte seems happy.
Yes, Charlotte seems very relaxed, doesn't she? Well, she's in Mum's arms. Of course, George is at a lower level and having to meeting the dignitaries. She's still got her hand in her mouth. That would suggest she's still teething a bit. You remember at trooping, she didn't take her fist out her mouth and she was dribbling and red cheeks. So she's having a good old nibble on her finger. He's just taking it all in, isn't he? Holding Daddy's hand.
Oh, got the royal wave.
He's mastered that one.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What's it like out there, Briar? You're watching all this in person.
Oh, come on.
You know what? It really is quite the moment. And I have to tell you, I'm standing right in front of the stairs, and there wasn't a ton of media before they brought that stairway out, but there really just was a huge crush of photographers now by me, all trying to capture this. And it really was quite a sweet moment seeing Prince George come down the stairs holding his parents' hand. He does seem to be a little overwhelmed by it all. You saw, BC Premier Christy Clark kind of crouch down and try to talk to him. Seems to be a little shy. Obviously, this is a lot to take in, especially after a very long flight. I mean, the children must be very tired. It is quite something for them to be able to come out like the way they did. And I did think that they, both Princess Charlotte and Prince George, gave a little bit of a wave. And very soon, they're going to be put into one of these vehicles, and they're going to be part of the convoy. They'll be leaving here. The children will be taken to Government House. That's where we'll be based throughout the tour. The parents, Will and Kate, they will stop there as well. Perhaps take a little bit of a break before then arriving a little later at the Legislature.
All right, Briar, thank you. We know you're probably going to have to sneak away here in a moment because the media being put on a bus to follow the Royals into Victoria. But people in their cars and ready for the trip downtown to this area where we are at the BC Legislature. They're probably going to make a stop along the way. Briar's absolutely right. I mean, a long flight. It's well after midnight for those kids in terms of their time when they left Britain earlier today. I'm sure they slept on the plane, but still they're kind of out of whack, just like everybody else is. It takes long flights like that. But all in all, the exit from the plane and into the limousines all seem to go without a hitch. Everybody now scoots downtown. They will stop at Government House. The Royals will stop at BC Government House, the home of the Lieutenant Governor, which is a stunning place. We'll show it to you a little later, where they will be staying. And the kids will be staying every night for this next 8 days. Their parents will always come back to Government House, with the exception of one night when they're in Whitehorse. But the rest of the time it is home base. All right, so we'll keep our eyes on the cars here until they move on and begin their journey into town. We're probably at least a half an hour, if not 45 minutes away from seeing their arrival here at the BC Legislature. So there is a bit of time here in between. We got lots for you to show you in terms of items of interest on the Royals and on their connection to Canada. So you don't want to disappear on us, because the excitement is just about to start in some ways when they get down here. But that moment, apart from just your basic ordinary plane arrival, that moment was all about the two kids, George and Charlotte, and their reactions. And as Katie told us earlier, I mean, what's important about this to especially the British media is they just don't get an opportunity to see the kids out, you know, in real life. They, for Charlotte, this is only the third or fourth time they've been seen in public, the fourth time. We've seen lots of pictures of them, but those are the controlled pictures taken at the Palace and at Kensington Gardens, where the Cambridges stay in London, and then their home outside of London. So the crowd here is just being told as the limos leave the airport area. They're just being told that they can start to get ready here for the arrival in a half an hour, 45 minutes or so here at the BC Legislature. Katie's off now filing for her paper, the Mail on Sunday in London, about the arrival, and we'll get her in a few minutes to tell us what she is telling her readers and what some of the other British reporters are saying about what they just witnessed. But we're going to take a little break here right now before we come back with much more coverage. We're only begun a couple of minutes. We want to tell you lots more about this trip that's about to take place over the next 8 days, and lots more about Will, Kate, Charlotte, and George. But we'll take this quick break and be right back. All right, this is the scene just a few moments ago at the Victoria Airport when Will, Kate, Charlotte, George, they all arrived here in Canada. And it was a nice little moment with the family. Young George, 3 years old, Prince George, with his father, the Duke of Cambridge, the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate, with their 15-month-old daughter, 16-month-old daughter, Princess Charlotte. So here they are, arriving in Canada. And, you know, keep in mind, probably a little groggy after a long flight, out of whack on hours, but went through the receiving line, and with the Governor General, the Prime Minister, the BC Premier, the BC Lieutenant Governor, all here to greet the Royals as they arrive. That was just a few moments ago, and with this moment here where George was fascinated by the helicopter coming in from behind.
Well, he couldn't have been too jet lagged, could he? Because he was absolutely taken with that Sea King that was coming on. And we know that he loves all things that fly. He's got a great collection of aeroplanes and helicopters at home. One wonders if he might follow in his father's footsteps. Of course, William is a pilot with the Search and Rescue.
Right.
I'm so sorry, with the East Anglian Air Ambulance back at home. He used to fly with the Search and Rescue. And there's nothing that William doesn't know about a cockpit. So I'm sure the whole experience for George and flying in on that Royal Air Force jet, just look at him absorbing it all, taking it all in. And I mean, doesn't look like a little boy who's just been on a 9-hour flight. There's no tears, no tantrums, and Charlotte on her best behaviour too. So I would imagine that their parents are very relieved.
So that was about 10 minutes ago. Now join us back here outside the British Columbia Legislature on the lawns where the crowds have gathered, and there's, well, it keeps getting bigger. They're another half an hour, 40 minutes away from the Royals arriving, but they're expecting somewhere between 10 and 20,000 here. So quickly, Katie, what did you send to your readers back home? What did you tell them about that airport?
Well, this was all picture-led, but it was really lovely that William came out just a little bit before Kate, holding George's hand. I wondered whether he might be holding George because George would have been tired, but he wasn't. And then to see both of them, they really tried to walk down as much as a foursome as they could. Just amazing that Charlotte was on such good behaviour. Those children didn't look like children who'd just been on a 9-hour flight.
You know, the British are known for their many, many, many papers. One assumes when they wake up in a few hours' time, which will be in a Sunday morning in Britain, most of these papers are going to have that picture on their front page.
They will. Well, as we were saying, it's very late for us. We've held our final edition back to get that picture in. That's what this tour was all about. For the British papers, getting this picture was very important. So, they've held the press back for this.
Okay.
Held the front page.
Sure, hold the page. Hold the presses. All right, they're getting ready here outside the BC Legislature, positioning the bands and the soldiers, the Guard of Honour. All that's going to be happening once the Royals arrive here. And then there will be speeches, and you'll hear from, among others, the Prime Minister and Prince William. So you'll hear all of that. Where are they right now? They're on their way to Government House, mentioned, the home for the BC Lieutenant Governor, where the Royals will be staying throughout this week. And it is a spectacular place. We wanted to show you what it looks like. Watch this. It's the official residence of the Lieutenant Governor and sits on nearly 15 hectares in Victoria's Rockland neighborhood. This is the traditional territory of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Since 1865, there have been 3 government houses on this site. The first, known as Carey Castle, was built in 1859. Sadly, the mansion and its contents were destroyed by fire in 1899. Renowned architects Samuel McClure and Francis Rattenberry were hired to design a new house. It officially opened in 1903 and served British Columbia for the next 54 years. Then, in 1957, it too was destroyed by fire. The only thing left standing, the stone entrance. Construction on Government House number 3 began almost immediately and closely matched the previous building, keeping that imposing entrance. Inside, a grand home filled with art and furniture. The massive ballroom is used for ceremonies and receptions. The dining room has seen numerous official dinners. The upstairs rooms are the private quarters, closed to the public. Less well known is a collection of buildings just a stroll from the main house. The Carey Castle Mews consists of the original stables, chicken coop, and museum. They're believed to be the oldest buildings of their type west of Manitoba. And then there are the gardens, home to about 1,000 species of plants and trees. An army of volunteers helps with the upkeep, and it shows. They've been working overtime preparing for the royal visit, pruning, weeding, and trimming, and stocking the fountain with rubber duckies for Prince George and Princess Charlotte. All right, well, that looks all ready, and so are things on the lawns outside the BC Legislature here, where Andrew Chang is with us. Andrew.
Yeah, well, you know, once that brief stop happens at Government House, it's only about a 7-minute drive to here, the front lawn of the BC Legislature. So everyone here is buzzing right now, waiting for the moment. And one of those folks who's very, very excited, Alicia Kaloran, joining us right now, 12 years old. And you are something of a collector, is that right?
Yeah.
What do you collect?
I collect teacups, plates, and books.
Royal teacups,
yes.
Royal plates. How many pieces do you have in your collection?
I'm not sure actually. I haven't really counted yet.
And why? What is it about the royals that captures your imagination?
The heritage and just the background and stuff like that.
Now, you have been asking us for updates. You know, the plane touching down, you're asking, okay, have they rolled the stairs in? Have they come off the plane? You're pretty excited right now, I gather.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
When the royal couple does make their way here, if they stop, now it's a long shot, I can't promise anything, but if they stop here, what would you say to them?
I don't know, probably welcome to Canada and thank you for coming.
Well, hey, that's a good start. Alicia, thanks so much. Peter, back to you.
All right, Andrew, thank you. And that would be a good start. Let's go over to Natalie Collada. She's also got someone to talk to. Natalie.
Well, you know, I have been speaking in preparation for this tour, Peter, to Mr. Charles McPherson. He is a butler. He is a champion of etiquette and really in royal protocol, because when you look behind me here, you can kind of get an idea of just how many people there are here, many of whom are very excited to meet the royal couple. But there are a few things that, you know, our protocol that, you know, people have to know. So the first thing he said is the name, what to call them. While we may call them William and Kate, you might call them that to your friends or your family members. Not appropriate to say, hey, Will, hey, Kate, how you doing? No. It's your Royal Highness. And then after that, sir or ma'am. Ma'am as in ham, not marm as in farm. And then also important, might be tempting to take those selfies. Unfortunately, the royal couple has said they want to meet as many people as possible. That simply takes too much time. Now you might think, do I bow, do I curtsy? Well, you don't have to do that here in Canada. However, one of the interesting things is when you do have an opportunity to shake your hand, there are some rules about that. So here is what those rules are. Have a listen.
Remember, you don't want to extend your hand to them.
Oh.
So it's not that they don't want to touch you, it's just think of the number of people they're meeting. It gets tiring. So wait for them to give you their hand if they choose to. Now, if they do give you their hand, do you know how to shake their hand?
No, how?
Oh, okay. So you're going to extend the hand. Remember, it's cup to cup or web to web. And so then we're going to shake 3 or 4 times and we're going to release. But remember, the amount of pressure that you use when you're shaking the hand is what you would use to hold a plastic water bottle. So it's not too hard, not the bone crusher. And don't do this, which is kind of like this wet fish of, that's very uncomfortable. Okay. So again, just doing it properly. There we go. It's great to meet you.
So there you go, a few tips for people here as they greet the royal couple and get ready to do that. Peter?
That's great, really. We learned a lot there. I had no idea, especially about the handshakes, the different forms of handshakes. Very good. No selfies.
No selfies, sadly. I think it really is more a case of they need to get through those crowds quickly.
Sure.
And, they're
Never
trying
stopped Justin Trudeau.
No, but I think never stopped Justin Trudeau. And I think they just want to make their way through the crowds really as quickly as they can to meet as many people as they can. And I think taking selfies, it just sort of holds people up. That said, William and Kate are very obliging back at home. When I'm on engagements with them, they're more than happy to pose up pictures. They're very relaxed. when it comes to etiquette. They don't expect to be addressed as sir and mum. You can call them William and Kate, and people do, and they're very relaxed about it. And the thing is, when you meet the royals, people tend to just forget everything they've been told and often freeze up. And William has a wonderful way of putting people at ease. He says to them, imagine me naked. And then, of course, they collapse into fit of giggles, and they're very relaxed when they... Yeah, he has. On occasions been known to just to put people at ease. You have to remember, Peter, you know, people get so worked up, you know, they're almost fainting at the sheer terror of meeting the royals. So it's his way of putting them at ease.
Yeah, oh, that's great. All right, we'll get, I'm sure we'll probably get a chance to witness some of that happening when they do the walkabout here in the next little while. We saw the Governor General at the airport. He'll be down here as well, David Johnston, who has seen this couple. He's been kind of a constant in terms of Canada and the royal couple since they got married, because he's been Governor General all that time. And we talked to him a little bit about that just a couple of hours ago. Sir, you've been one of the constants between the relationship between the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Canada. How have you seen that relationship grow?
Well, I think they've come to have a real affection for Canada. The Queen has been here 22 times, and she was here several years before she was Queen, and clearly sees this as her second home. I think that has happened with the Duke and Duchess as well. They respond so well to Canada, to the freshness of the people, to the youth, to the sense of exuberance and the optimism of the country, and they will be making a very happy visit.
You've seen them both in public and in private. Can you share something with us that would give us a better sense of who they really are, what they're really like?
I'm struck by a number of things. First of all, the Duchess is a commoner, which is somewhat of a novel initiative in 1,000 years of constitutional monarchy, and she brings all of the goodness that comes from that, her own family upbringing and background and so on, and I think that's been a wonderful stream into this constitutional monarchy. The other thing I can tell you is I'm struck by the empathy of this relatively young couple. There was an incident of a cancer patient being with us at Rideau Hall for a tree planting, and they had a discussion with him about dying for 5 or 6 minutes, and I was absolutely astonished at how thoughtful and empathetic they were in a discussion of that kind. So these are two young people with many fascinating and attractive sides to their personalities.
You're coming near the end of your extended term. You've witnessed throughout that term that there's kind of been a steady percentage of Canadians who are at best unsure about the monarchy and the relationship with Canada. About 30%. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would say two things, Peter. One is this is a system of government that's evolved over about 1,000 years. So it's had time to work through challenges, and it's evolved in Canada. We are not a country of revolution. We are a country of evolution, and we found a system of government that has measured and served us well. The second thing I would say is, if you ask people around the world, name me 10 countries that govern themselves well and provide a government that serves the interests of their people well, you'd probably have on that list Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. What's common about those countries? They all have a constitutional monarchy with a thriving democracy, and they've been able to divide head of state and head of government. I'm the representative of the Queen, our head of state. The government is the elected prime minister and the elected officials, and the government's responsibility is the business of government, whereas the head of state and that responsibility is the spirit of government and the soul of the country and fundamental values. And I think when you have those in different areas, in different institutions, it works well. And so I would say, look carefully at our government, and of course it will evolve, but it's served us well, and I think will continue to serve us well.
Thank you very much, sir.
As always, a great pleasure to be with you, Peter.
Thank you.
Chancellor.
Yes. He always does that Chancellor line with me because I'm Chancellor of Mount Allison University in New Brunswick, and he was an honorary degree recipient during my time as Chancellor. Quickly on this point that he raises, though, the commoner angle to Kate. It's been 4 or 5 years now. Is that still at play? Do people still talk about it that way?
Less in Britain. I particularly find the work I do over here in Canada and America, that's where she tends to get referred to as a commoner. We've kind of dropped that. But I think in many ways it's stood Kate in very good stead. You know, William didn't go through that traditional route of marrying into European royalty, blue-blooded aristocracy. I think in many ways, you know, when you see Kate coming down those steps, she is just she's a future queen, of course she is, but she came from very humble beginnings. She's the girl from the home counties who got her prince. She is the young woman who has married into the royal family and seamlessly made a very difficult transition from a commoner to a future queen, and she's done it amazingly well. And I think in many ways, one of the reasons she's so popular is that because she comes from a regular background, people feel they can relate to her in a way that perhaps they can't to blue-blooded aristocrats and royals.
I want to talk a little more about that and a little later in the broadcast. The whole seamless nature of it, now seamless it's been. Because there have been times, especially in the last few months, where questions have been raised in terms of the privacy angle with the kids. So anyway, we'll have that opportunity. We're going to take a quick break, though, because we're trying to fit in a number of things here before they arrive here in front of the BC Legislature, which shouldn't be that far away now. We'll be right back after this. right, BC Legislature. Their band is ready. That's the band from Naden, the naval band, Royal Canadian Navy band from Naden. Members of the Honor Guard will be from the Esquimalt base, not far from here. In fact, just a couple of clicks away. That all starting to be positioned for the arrivals of the officials starting in about 10 minutes. And when I mean officials, Prime Minister, Governor General, Premier, BC Lieutenant Governor, they will all be arriving before the Royals arrive, but everything's starting to close in on those arrivals coming up. As I say, they'll start in about 10 minutes time. And for the official program here, aside from the walkabout, we're going to hear speeches, short ones were promised, from the Governor General, the Prime Minister, the BC Lieutenant Governor, the BC Premier, and then Prince William. He will speak. We will not see, unless something has changed drastically in the scheduling, we will not see the children of the royal couple here, but both Prince William and the Duchess of Cambridge will be here as part of the kind of official welcoming ceremony down here in downtown Victoria. Let's go into the crowd because they've been patient and excited for quite a few hours, many of them. Andrew Chang is with a guest right now. Andrew.
Yes, they have been absolutely patient. And as all the pieces slowly start to come together, whether it was the band playing, as you just mentioned, a flag-raising ceremony that they just had, or the MC walking the crowd through the moments that are coming every minute that rolls by, I feel like this crowd is just getting antsier and antsier and antsier. And perhaps no two people know that better than Kristen and Mike joining us right now, two parents. And I say that because you guys have two little ones. Who are the little ones here?
We do. This is Judah, who's 2, and Liam is 4.
Liam and Judah. And how have they been today?
Well, they've been great until now.
Starting to get a little fussy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of waiting.
Now, who's the biggest royal fan here? That's you?
Me.
Okay, and what is it about the royals that gets you excited?
Well, I just grew up loving them. I loved Princess Diana when I was little. My my sister would actually bribe me to do things because she would get my hair to look like Princess Diana. So yeah, I've just followed them my whole life. So.
And what do you think of Prince William and Kate?
I love them. I want to be friends with them. I think we should have a play date with our kids.
You would have a lot to talk about, right?
Exactly.
And do you feel like you relate to them on that level?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have maybe a little bit more luxurious life than we do, but I think they also are pretty down to earth and keep it real. So.
Are the kids getting excited?
Yeah, I think so. We've tried to explain it to them the best that we can, and they're going to see a real prince and princess, so they're excited about that.
Lots to be excited about. Thanks so much, guys. Peter, still waiting. Back to you.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, that's great. And that young guy, he looks a little tired, and he hasn't just been on a plane for the last 8 or 9 hours. So I think we can understand what young Prince George is going through as well. Anyway, that's the crowd. I get a sense of it, and it does remind, and both Katie and I were reflecting 30 years back on these same grounds. Diana and Charles were here. I covered that one as well, and I can remember sitting in the booth taking pictures myself of what was going on, just like everybody else. This was the pictures. Now, if you look really hard, you will actually see Charles in the foreground. He's looking towards the crowd there. He's saying hello. And in the background, in Diana blue, kind of a blue somewhat similar to the blue that the Duchess is wearing today. She's working the crowd on the other side. So you've got Charles and Diana. There she is now.
Yeah, you're right. Then maybe that was a homage to Diana that Kate chose to wear the royal blue. I wondered if perhaps she would have chosen red, but actually the dress that Kate's wearing, it doesn't have polka dots, but it's blue with a matching blue lock and co hat. But the designer that the Duchess is wearing is Jenny Packham, a British designer. And as you know, like Diana did, Kate really flies the flag for British fashion.
You know what taking a good look at that, but listening to you already, they've got it out, right?
Oh,
who
yeah.
designed the dress? Who designed the coat?
Oh, that's
the whole
all
bit.
out. That's all over Twitter, Peter. These are the important details. What the Duchess wore. In fact, there's a blogger out there who solely does what the Duchess wore. Because I tell you what, that outfit will sell out as soon as anything is identified that she has worn and someone knows where they can go and get it. They'll go and buy it.
So there'll be some clothing manufacturer in downtown London going crazy tonight.
Absolutely.
Making up these outfits.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that she's going to wear a Canadian designer at least once while she's over here. You know, she's clever in that way. She will want to pay homage to some of your greatest designers as well.
So I'll get on Twitter and look for that.
You will.
Right away. Okay. Let's go back into the crowd. Natalie Collada. Natalie.
Well, Peter, everyone here is waiting with bated breath. You can see over my shoulder here, the flags, the fascinators are on. Over my right shoulder, the security guards already lining up. And to my left here, I'm going to bring in some guests. We have Amber, Winter, and Shauna, some grade 10 students from nearby Duncan, British Columbia. Ladies, tell me, what is it about William and Kate that made you want to come out here today?
They made me come out here because I look up to them. They are solving these important issues that are for us, and they're really dedicated. They're amazing.
Now, Winter, I know you have Justin Trudeau's book here. You are hoping to meet him as well. If you get a chance to meet him, what are you going to say to him?
I'm going to say thank you so much for what you've already done for our country and how much you do for the youth. I know you have started the Youth Council, and I'm just really excited to meet him and get him to sign my book.
Now, Shauna, I know you and I were talking about it. I asked you if you get to meet William and Kate, what is it you want to talk to them about? What is it you want to ask them or say? What are you going to do?
I would probably ask them if it's hard with everyone's eyes on them all the time.
Quite a few eyes here today. You girls have been here for quite some time. Telling me, how have you been passing the time waiting for these guys to arrive?
We've been playing games.
Snacks, getting all ready, and of course you won't have to wait too much longer. As you can see, Peter, lots of excitement, some nerves as well, as William and Kate make their way here to Government House, to the Legislature building. And I just want to point out this one woman who's across the way here. Her hat is absolutely amazing. Had an opportunity to just tell her there is so much spirit here, lots of excitement as we, of course, wait for their arrival. Peter.
All right, Natalie, thanks very much. And yes, they do seem anxious for the moment, and that moment is not far away actually now, when the first arrivals will start to take place with the Governor General, the Prime Minister, the BC Premier, and so on, before the arrivals of Will and Kate. Katie and I were talking a moment ago about, I guess in some ways, kind of the branding of the royal family. I want to show you a piece that David Common did on exactly that. Watch this.
The most valuable brands in the world have long included Coca-Cola and Apple. But brand managers agree these two are up there, adding major value to the British monarchy.
The glamour they bring, the youthfulness they bring, there's really no substitute. And I think that, people are probably more excited about them than, about any other member of the royal family right now, except maybe Prince George.
The birth of their son added $800 million to the British economy. Not just souvenirs and tourism either, stores sold $51 million more in strollers that year. And around the world, that improved the key measure of customer sentiment toward all things British. In visiting Americans who outspend Brits 2-1, William can raise big money for his charities. The fascination with Will and Kate deeper in the U.S. than it is at home in Britain.
We love the royals. They're kind of like they're like human pandas, right? Like they're really fun and exciting, and I do think that Americans have less complicated feelings about the royals than Britons do.
Compare the crowds Will and Kate got when they last visited Canada to Charles and Camilla. Tells you about their relative popularity, huh?
With this ring, I thee wed.
At the time of their wedding, a poll showed Canadians preferred William as king 2-1 over Charles. In Britain, too, 64% wanted William to directly succeed his grandmother. Of course, it's not a popularity contest. There are rules for succession, and there have been cases where it skipped a generation, way back in 1679, though it was messy. Even today, Parliament would have to approve it, and not just the UK, but every Commonwealth country, Canada included. In any case, many think that's unlikely to happen.
I think it's just not even on the radar of the royal family. That will just not happen. It just isn't done. I mean, they take succession very seriously. They take their roles very seriously.
Charles, as monarch, is unlikely to change how often Will and Kate are in the spotlight, and now each has a company to protect their brand, one that owns their image rights. So all those royal plates and tea towels, they could charge, what's the word? A royalty. Vast potential revenues for charity or possibly their own expenses.
All right. The big change since that item, since David cut that item, was Charlotte. And it's impacted the Charlotte brand. Here's this. Remember that little blue bow in her first birthday photos? Stores couldn't keep it in stock. Same thing happened with the pink shoes she sported during her first balcony appearance. Every detail, suede sole, bar strap, and scalloped edges was dissected by the media. The shoemaker had to increase its workforce. Charlotte is not even 2, and reports say she's already worth more than £3 billion to the British fashion industry. Gotta love it. Here we are, back live, looking at the crowds. We're going to focus on them because there are a lot of people have come out to watch this moment. Look at that. The lawns here in front of the BC Legislature, when they're full, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20,000, according to police, are what are could be here. They're not. Well, they're very close to full right now, as people have timed this. The day looked at times, it was a little cool at times. It looked at times like it might rain. It hasn't done that, and the crowds are out. Somebody who's gone to a lot of trouble to get their poster ready for this moment.
That little girl, Peter, wearing a bow, not dissimilar to what we saw Princess Charlotte just arriving in. And, that package was really interesting because we've all been talking about the Kate effect, and now we're all talking about the Charlotte effect. And whatever she or Prince George wears does sell out, and they're doing wonders for the fashion industry.
They're extremely protective of these kids, and I think we all can understand why, given the history of all this. But there's been some tension with the media around that protection, right?
Yeah, there has been tension. I think there's always been tension between William and the media because of what happened to Diana, and I think that's exactly why William has been so determined to really put the children out on his terms. I've always been told that when it comes to the children, there's no negotiation. We'll get the official pictures when the couple decide to put them out. And as we were saying earlier, the fact that this is only Charlotte's fourth engagement and her fourth appearance, her first engagement, is really very indicative, I think, of how much we're going to see them in the future. I mean, while they're children, the Duke and the Duchess want them to enjoy a normal childhood, an ordinary childhood, away from the lenses. And given William and Harry's upbringing and the fact that they were so often in the limelight, I think you can completely understand that.
When you consider they're here for 8 days, and there's really only one moment where they're truly in the public, and that's at the kids' tea party later in the week. But the arrival and the departure, they'll be seen as well. But when you consider it's an 8-day run here, it's they've obviously put their foot down about exactly where the kids would be involved. Let's quickly go back into the crowd before the officials start arriving. Andrew's got another guest. Andrew?
Yeah, well, the rain is starting to come down, unfortunately. Hopefully it holds off, doesn't get too soggy out here. But joining me right now, I've got Ann Capello, and this is someone who has a very special fondness for moments such as this, which I want to get to in just a moment. But first, tell me, how are you feeling?
Oh, great. It's a long day since noon, but it's okay. It's worth it.
So you've been waiting for a few hours, and you've been through moments like this before, right? Can you explain that for me?
30 years ago, I saw Charles and Di here.
Wow, what was that like?
It was exciting. I got a couple of beautiful pictures. She was wearing royal blue and polka dots, and her face was flawless. Beautiful woman, yes. It was very exciting.
What do you remember about how that moment felt?
Great, just wonderful. Yeah, it was great.
And what are you expecting then now with Prince William and Kate?
Even more exciting.
Why even more?
It's the next generation. Yeah, it is. It really is. So, and then the generation after that. So it just continues. Yeah.
Well, Anne, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully they come by. Maybe they'll even stop and say hi. You never know.
I hope so.
Anne, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Back to you, Peter.
All right, Andrew. Thank you. What are you going to be watching for? I mean, you've seen them do walkabouts before, these two. What are you going to be watching when you see them going through this crowd?
Actually, the walkabouts for me are always the most interesting part, because that's when you get to see real glimpses of them as a couple. They tend to split so they can work the crowd together. Now, they didn't used to do that. Because Kate was very new to it, William would stand by her side, and that's what I mean about how things have changed since 2011. I think we're going to see Kate work the crowds on her own during this tour, because she's so much more confident now. But it's the little asides that they tell to the public. You know, they keep everything so private, from, you know, the fact that they've got a hamster called Marvin to a dog called Lupo, things that the press have wanted to know for weeks, if not months. Those are the snippets that they tend to give to ordinary people out there, which are then filtered back on social media. I think it's their way of just giving a little glimpse into their lives. You know, they'll often talk about their children when they're meeting the public. You know, Charlotte's teething, George, they'll give an insight into his character. And so for me, the walkabout's the most fascinating part of it all.
They have a hamster named Marvin.
They have a hamster. They have a hamster and they have a dog, yes.
Now, the hamster was for the kids? They got for the kids?
Yes, the hamster's for the children.
That's good. All right, let's go back in. George and Charlotte are adorable.
Here we go, Deb.
Says the crowd. And let's go into that crowd. Natalie's got a guess. Natalie.
Well, that's right, Peter. I'm here with Debbie. You are from Victoria. You have an interest in the Royals. You've been waiting here for about 3 hours. When it comes to the Royals and seeing them here today, why is it so important for you to be here?
I just think it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I really been waiting for this for such a long time, and I think they really represent the current generation. I think they're more modern, they're more in touch with what's going on nowadays, and I just think they're really refreshing. I think they've brought some new life into the royal family.
And that's really interesting. I mean, it is 2016. People have been saying, how relevant are the Royals from your perspective? What do you think they bring?
I think they bring a more realistic attitude to the royal family. It's, you know, they seem to be more like average people, even though obviously they're royalty. And I think they just seem more down to earth and more in touch with what's going on. And it's really, somehow I feel I can connect with them better than some of the past generations.
And I understand you were telling me, we were chatting just a little bit ago, that you have a sort of connection with Prince William in a way.
I do.
Tell me
My son was born on the same morning as Prince Charles was, my youngest child. So it really makes me think about that connection with them. It was special the day he was born. He was an article in the newspaper about the fact that he was born on the same day as the prince. And so it's really quite special.
What's it like then to see William, you know, be born same day as your son, as you said, then grow up, and now he's married and he has a family? What's that like for you?
It's really nice to see him grow up, to see him have a family, to see him have a wife, and beautiful children. And, you know, just like I said, it makes me think of my own children, actually.
Thank you so much for your time. There you go, Peter. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Natalie, thank you. Let me pick up on one thing that woman said. She said what they've proven, Will and Kate, is that they do understand what a modern monarchy means and how an in-touch monarchy means. Like, what do you think she's seeing? What is it that these two are doing that really says that statement's true?
Making themselves accessible, working with charities and initiatives that affect the people standing in this crowd today. Prince William once said, and I put this in my book, that modernisation is a very difficult word to use with the monarchy because we don't associate the monarchy with anything modern. The beauty, the charm, the appeal, the lure of the monarchy is that it's all about tradition and being constant. But actually, I think this couple realise that the monarchy does need to move forward, whether that's embracing Twitter and the social media, whether it's addressing gritty, serious issues. You know, back at home, male suicide is a gritty issue. It's one of the things that William is working really, really hard with. Young people integrating into society, all of these things that I think mean something to people, and they make them more approachable, more modern, and I think more appealing.
Here come the beginnings of the official motorcade arriving here at the BC Legislature. And as we've said, that's going to include a number of dignitaries from the Prime Minister, the Governor-General, the BC Premier, the BC Lieutenant Governor. They will all be here and in place to welcome the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge when they arrive, as will the Guard of Honour here you see assembled in front of the Legislature. There will be a couple of things happen here aside from the walkabout. There will be a moment at the cenotaph at the corner, front lawn corner here in front of the Legislature to remember those who have served. It's an unknown soldier that graces the top of the cenotaph here in BC. And it's for all those who served in various wars, and they've just added a new plaque to it for Afghanistan just in the last week or so.
Of course, it was Prince William's brother, Prince Harry, who actually served 2 tours in Afghanistan, but the Duke of Cambridge served many years with the RAF. The military gene, if you want, runs through the royal family. It has done for many decades, and these royal tours usually always begin with something like this because it's so important to the royal family to be seen to be doing that.
And after those moments by the cenotaph, they will then walk up that red carpet you just saw to the area and talk to people as they walk along, and then go to the podium area where there will be an inspection of the Guard of Honour that we saw from Esquimalt. And then there will be speeches at the podium. Short speeches, we're told, only a minute or 2 each. And then they walk out the other side of the area here on the lawns of the BC Legislature. So all that will probably take anywhere upwards of 40, 45 minutes, and you'll get lots of glimpses of Will and Kate as we see that all happen.
Well, you can hear the crowds cheering. I mean, this really is quite a welcome ceremony that you're putting on. William and Kate they'll be delighted by this. They get great pleasure out of seeing other people happy to see them. I always remember when they arrived in Canada back in 2011 and the Duchess being really quite overwhelmed by the crowds then and just looking chuffed, absolutely delighted to be there. And while she's got a few years of experience under her belt now, I still think you're going to see some very excited faces today.
She's going on a solo tour in the next month or so, going to the Netherlands,
yes, she is.
right?
That's right, to go meet the King in the Netherlands, and it is her first solo tour. It shouldn't have been. She was meant to do a first solo tour a couple of years back, or a year back, in Malta, but she was pregnant at the time, so the Duke went in her place. So yeah, this will be an important tour for her. It's just a day, but watching her handle herself and do something independently of her husband will be a first, and we'll be watching quite keenly. I'm sure she'll pull it off like a complete pro.
They have both said many times, and they said it the last time too, that they want to use these visits as an opportunity to actually meet real Canadians. Sounds good. You hear that, often. But this is where we get an opportunity to see how much they actually mean it. I mean, they're not here long at an event like this, and for all kinds of reasons, you can understand that. But if they use those minutes in such a way that they actually are talking to people, more than just the kind of normal pleasantries that are exchanged?
Well, there's always going to need to be a routine that's followed, plaque unveilings, tree planting. These royal tours follow a format. But I think what you're going to see this couple do, which is not a breach of protocol, but perhaps a departure from the more traditional, is more walkabouts, more engaging with the public, more conversations. That said, they've got to watch the clock, Peter. Don't forget these things run with military precision. And the one thing, and the Duchess has said this about herself, she's hopeless at keeping time. She always wants to chat to people for that bit longer. On those walkabouts, William's got his eye on his watch and he sticks to the timing quite religiously. Kate ends up stalling a bit behind and causing the programme often to run a bit later. But it's because she genuinely wants to talk to people. They enjoy that interaction.
And is there evidence that this change in the kind of protocol around senior members of the royal family has had an impact there? I mean, we saw more data out today in Canada that I think it's 47% of Canadians say that William is their favorite royal, most admired royal. Quite a bit higher than his father, and certainly rivaling the Queen, which is interesting that would happen because she is so fondly thought of here. But I'm wondering, in Britain, has there been a change in the way the monarchy is looked at, even by the British, who we all know went through difficult times in the late 90s after the Diana's death, in terms of their relationship with the monarchy? Have we seen a change that can be pointed towards these two?
Yes, absolutely. And I would cite that change being in 2011 with the royal wedding. I think that's when things really turned. And yes, after some difficult years in the 90s, when the monarchy probably were less popular than ever before, they saw a real resurgence, and that resurgence correlated with the rise of the young royals. Let's not leave Prince Harry out of all of this. He's hugely popular, and they're very much seen as a trio back at home. And they're doing a lot for the popularity of the royal family. And I think when George and Charlotte came along, that was the cherry on the cake. And that's what's going to ensure the longevity. And you pointed out these polls. Well, polls change, public opinion changes with things like these royal tours. You look back to June when you and I were broadcasting together for the Queen's 90th. The Queen was enjoying ultimate popularity. She couldn't have been more popular. Now perhaps there's a swing in the pendulum and you're seeing more popularity towards the Cambridges. You often see polls saying that people want King William and Queen Catherine over Charles and Camilla, but don't forget there is a royal protocol. There is a way that things have to evolve and have to happen, and we will have King Charles and Queen Camilla before we have William and Kate on the throne. That's the way things work.
I want to welcome in to our audience right now listeners on CBC Radio across British Columbia who are picking up the television audio coverage. We'll let you know what's happening right now. We're in front of the BC Legislature. The officials are still arriving here, and dignitaries, a number of elected officials from mayors and First Nations groups from across the province, MLAs, cabinet ministers, then the top layer of the official dignitaries being the Governor General, the Prime Minister, the BC Lieutenant Governor, and the BC Premier all will be arriving the next few moments, and then immediately following them will be the arrival of the royal party, which will be the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Will and Kate. There will be speeches, there will be a walkabout. We'll try to describe it as best we can for listeners on radio. I can tell you that there are a lot of people here in front of the legislature, somewhere in the sort of 10,000, 15,000 range at least. And they are braving right now temperatures which have dropped a bit through the afternoon, and a light drizzle at times in the last little while. They are running a little late right now, about 15 or 20 minutes late from the schedule. So there goes Katie, you're saying they're still staying on time.
Can I just rephrase that, Peter? It usually runs to military precision, but you never know. The kids might need a little bit of settling back at Government House.
Right.
Quite ambitious for them to be dropping the children off and then coming straight here. So you never know what perhaps might have been thrown into the mix back at Government House.
Yeah, and we know kids, especially young kids, they see Mummy and Daddy leaving. They're not
always very happy about it. Absolutely,
No.
And I think that needs to be factored into this tour. Particularly on the Thursday, which is when we're going to, we hope we're going to see Charlotte and George. Things when it involves children don't necessarily always run to clockwork. So I just correct myself on that. It doesn't always run to military precision, but most of the time it does.
And it doesn't seem to have bothered too many people here, who many of whom have spent the day here. We saw crowds early this morning getting a position near the railing so they could be close, and they're hanging in here. in spite of what seems to be a little bit of a delay, but that's all forgotten when the royal couple will turn up, I'm sure.
Well, one thing you need if you're a royal fan, and I'd like to add to that, a royal correspondent, is patience in bucket loads, because there's a lot of waiting around. But like you say, that moment when they arrive, I think everyone just forgets that they've been standing in the rain, waiting for hours, haven't eaten because they've been standing by a barrier and don't want to lose that coveted place where they're going to get, a handshake, be able to give a bouquet of flowers, maybe even steal a selfie, even if it's not on the rules and regulations.
How often do you see this royal couple?
We're seeing them more and more. There was quite a lot of criticism early this year that we weren't seeing enough of them, that they weren't doing enough engagements compared to some of the more senior members of the royal family. I have to say, in recent months, they've really upped the number of engagements that they've been doing. We've been seeing more of them. They've been travelling around the country, doing more official engagements. It's finding that balance. I think that's what it comes down to. They ultimately see their role at the moment as parents who are supporting the Queen in their official role, and I think that's a fine line to strike a chord with, because they want to be at home with their children, but of course people want to see them. They want to see them working. They want to see them out and about doing their engagements and representing their charities.
And many of the royals have made no secret of the fact that they are taking on more of a role than they used to, not only for those reasons, but also because, the Queen's in her 90s.
She just turned 90 this year.
The Duke's in his mid-90s.
Absolutely.
Has had some health issues in the last couple of years.
Yes.
So they have to take on more.
Yes, there's very much a handing over of more responsibility to the younger generation, and this is something that's been in the pipeline for many years. It's not something that someone has just clicked their fingers and decided should happen overnight. This is a gradual transition. Nothing really happens terribly quickly in the royal family. It's slow and meaningful, and when it does happen, it happens for a very well thought out and calculated reason. So you are seeing the younger royals take on more. I mean, only recently we saw the Duchess take on a couple of patronages from the Duke of Edinburgh. He's not retiring from public life, but he's cutting back on those engagements, and at 95, who can blame him? I mean, you would expect the younger generation to be stepping up to the plate a little bit more now.
It is remarkable when you see him, as we did in June. He had been sick. He just missed a couple of events, and yet he turned up. Was it the Trooping of the Colours?
It was Trooping, yes.
And 95, he just, in fact, that day may have even been his birthday. I can't remember. It was certainly right around then.
Yes.
And there he was, all dressed up on a hot day. You even had the
Busby on.
The Busby on.
Yeah, no, he's very impressive, and there is an amazing energy that comes with the Duke of Edinburgh. I think he is quite a remarkable royal.
Now, a lot of people are just tuning in, just catching us, whether on radio or on television, and may have missed the airport arrival. I'm sorry if you're listening on radio that you can't see this, but you can hear it. This is what it looked like just around 4 o'clock BC time this afternoon, when the royal family, that being Prince William and the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate, Prince George, and Princess Charlotte arrived on the tarmac area in Victoria, roughly 25 kilometers away from the spot we're sitting in here right now.
You just know, Peter, that stills of this footage are just going to go around the world. They'll be on the front pages of our newspapers, our magazines, our souvenir editions.
Yeah. Met by the Governor-General, David Johnston, and his wife, and then the Prime Minister.
Who seems to be getting a lot of showtime on this tour. Is it going to turn into the Trudeau show, I wonder? Because he and his wife are going to be around quite a lot, aren't they?
There have been some rumbles about that.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and there was a piece in one of your colleagues' papers this morning suggesting that there may even be a little bit of tension in there about how much he's involved in the visit. I know he's pulled back a bit. He was going to be at I think Bella Bella for the Spirit Bear visit, but he's not going to be there now. He hadn't been planned to be at this airport arrival ceremony. It was going to be the Minister of Heritage, Melanie Joly, but at the last minute it was the Prime Minister and Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. They will all be at the event here that's coming up outside the BC Legislature in a few minutes' time. It all seemed to be well there, although they didn't dwell on any discussions. They moved on here. And David Johnston, of course, the Governor General, who is the Queen, of course, is the head of state for Canada. And when she's not here, her representative is the Governor General. All right, well, that was the scene at the airport. We're waiting for the news scene in just a few moments outside the Legislature. Let's listen in, though. Andrew Chang has got a guest outside. No guess. Andrew, you're going to tell us something.
Yeah, so I can tell you that everyone here really on pins and needles right now. No one's quite sure exactly when the royal couple is actually going to arrive. So you see a lot of necks craning out beyond the security fences, everyone looking at their phones, wondering if they're going to see any updates. And perhaps no one more nervous than a group of Songhees First Nations dancers who are getting set to perform for the royal couple. Now, I was speaking to one of them. Her name is Angela Joseph, and she was telling me that, she's nervous, very nervous. And I asked her, really? And she said, yeah, well, of course, who wouldn't be? They're about to perform a paddle welcome. It's sort of a traditional greeting. It's a condensed version, but it's something that they've been practicing and that they're getting set to do. And of course, the focus on Indigenous culture here on this particular trip, very interesting and particularly fitting, I would say, in a province such as British Columbia, because of the extent to which Indigenous cultures intertwines with everything here. I mean, Victoria City Council, for example, they will start every official meeting with a formal declaration that they are conducting business on traditional, ancestral, Indigenous territory. And it's like that for most public functions. And even the MC here, right here on the front lawn of the Legislature, addressing the crowd, said the same thing, that we find ourselves here on unceded territories of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. So it's something that the royal couple certainly has taken a personal interest in. They'll be, as you've been mentioning, they'll be touring Bella Bella, Haida Gwaii, getting an aerial view of the Great Bear Rainforest as well. It's something that lines up with the federal government's interests as they look towards reconciliation more and more over the progress of their government. And, well, it's something that if those two things line up here on this particular visit, it's certainly no coincidence. Peter, back to you.
And those are all excellent points, Andrew. And I think that we're going to see throughout this visit at probably, if not every stop, certainly close to every stop, that opening recognition of the lands on which the visit is taking place will be mentioned by whomever may be emceeing the event. So what Andrew just witnessed here in Victoria, and what we may hear as well when the event starts, is not going to be uncommon in terms of what we're going to be hearing. And you hear it actually more and more often right across the country now. Here's an update from the...
Their Royal Highnesses are 5 minutes away.
Sure.
Well, they've waited 5 hours. They can wait
I've heard that
5 minutes.
before. I remember doing a show on the Pope's arrival, 1984, the Pope's arrival in Montreal. It's coming in by train, and there were massive crowds in Quebec for the Pope. He'd come down from Quebec City, and he was late, and they kept saying, well, he's a half hour late, and then he's going to be 15 minutes late. And we'd taken network time, prime time, network, full network. We'd gone on at 8 o'clock at night, so this was like we dumped a lot of program. It was after 10 o'clock before he arrived.
Oh my goodness.
We sat there for 2 hours plus.
That's when you have to have time fillers. That's when you need commentators that can fill in the time.
I tell you, I learned a lot about the Catholic Church in those 2 hours. Anyway, just to complete my quick point here, many of the invited guests here tonight for this event are members of various First Nations from across BC who are here, and not just the Songhees First Nation that Andrew mentioned that are taking part in the dance that will be performed. Let's go to Natalie Collada, who is in the crowd. Natalie.
Well, Peter, I'm standing here with Meni and Natasha. You girls have some prime location here right along the red carpet, hoping to see William and Kate as they come. Tell me, what is it about them that has drawn you here?
I think it's just like a really historic moment, and we just wanted to be part of it and experience it, something we'll remember for a long time. and I think they'll be here discussing some important topics. So.
Now, Natasha, I'm going to ask you, William, Kate, do you have a preference as to who you would wish to speak to if you got a choice?
Kate, for sure.
And what would you want to talk to her about?
I think I just want to say hi. I feel like she's really relatable, and I feel like she's a woman of the people, and I'm looking forward to meeting her and seeing her. Well, not meeting her, but seeing her.
And so there you go. A lot of people here. You can see the press here, Peter behind me, running down the red carpet ahead of the Royals to get in position. So lots of action as, of course, we wait for, there they are, for the arrival of William and Kate. Peter?
All right, Natalie. Thank you. And that's the Governor General here now taking his position in terms of the reviewing area. So the Governor General, David Johnston, and his wife, Sharon Johnston.
The Governor General will receive a royal salute. Le Gouverneur Général recevra les honneurs militaires.
And remember, he receives the royal salute as he's here representing the Queen as the country's head of state.
Royal salute! Present arms!
So the Governor General, followed by the Prime Minister, taking their positions. Well, I guess they'll be heading actually back down the red carpet to the cenotaph area, where the official arrival of Will and Kate will take place. The crowd reacting both to the GG and the Prime Minister, who, along with his wife, is just behind.
I wonder if she knew that Kate was wearing royal blue and decided that she would wear something of the same hue. Sophie looks like she's in royal blue to me.
Yeah, real conspiracy
theorist,
aren't
you never know. It'll be a real battle of the style stakes between these two women, I think.
I'm in blue. I got a blue jacket on.
And I'm
you
in
got
blue
a blue
too. Well, of course we knew, Peter. We knew.
Yeah, right. So that's the cenotaph area, and you'll see atop the cenotaph the unknown soldier. So there will be a short service at the cenotaph. They'll lay a wreath, and then they'll walk back up that same area that you just saw the GG and the PM walk down to head towards the podium area and the area where the speeches will take place. There's the unknown soldier atop the cenotaph area. So the crowds really have double, triple just in the last hour. Dress is Judith Bouchon, the BC Lieutenant Governor. She will also be speaking. And that's Christy Clark just out of your camera shot there on the right.
It's quite unusual, Peter, for the Duke to give a speech on an arrival ceremony.
Right.
Usually he saves the speeches for midway through the tour and at the end. So I think he wants to acknowledge everyone that's turned up today and how much effort the Canadians have gone to welcome the Cambridges today.
Another landmark for British Columbia you see in that one of those shots, and you'll see it again here in a moment when the arrivals take place. In the background is the famed Empress Hotel, and it was built shortly after the BC Legislature, same architect for both buildings. Some wonderful pictures in the Empress of the Royal Tour of 1939 because George VI, and that's the Empress in the background there. George VI and the Queen Mother stayed at the Empress Hotel. There's some great pictures in the different areas for their walkabouts at that time. Christy Clark's son, Hamish, is enjoying the attention here. The bow tie.
You think if the cheers are like that for the Trudeaus, what are they going to be like here? I think we might be momentarily deafened, Peter.
Yeah, I think it will be, definitely.
Look at this corner of Belleville and Government. They are minutes away from showing up.
Eveline Shalloway, who is a Radio Canada host, who is the MC for this event. You hear her voice in the background. She's telling the crowd that they're just minutes away now. You see that big pole? It's a flagpole. And there's a bit of a story behind it. It's new this year, but it replaced one that had been there for 100 years, and it was basically, it was a log that was found along the shoreline, but a very long one. And it was put up even before the legislature, that one there, right there in the center of your shot. That's the new one, obviously. But the one it replaced, which was roughly the same height, was basically a tree. A log that was placed there and lasted 100 years until they just in the last couple of years decided they were going to have to bring it down because the wood was starting to deteriorate. I've got a log cabin, and the fellow who built it, a great home builder by the name of Ron Nadon, he used to tell me a log never dies. It's always alive, even after you cut it. And clearly in the case of that one, it lasted an awfully long time, and it was probably just the weather and the whatever around it that finally brought it down.
I think it's lovely to see so many young people in the crowds as well. So many children out there today. That's great. Children who are there today who will one day be seeing William and Kate come here when they're king and queen, you would think.
Yeah. And, you know, as you've pointed out to us many times, their main focus, especially in their charitable work, is for young people.
It is, yes, it is. They really want to bring as much change and opportunity around for disadvantaged young people as possible. They've really been quite selective in the charities and organisations they've taken on, really making sure they can hone in the ones that mean something to them.
Right.
I made an effort today.
Well, they're all being very patient, lined up there, waiting the arrival. It'll be interesting when they do get, and who knows? We're not along the Motorcade route. It's not far from Government House where they dropped off the kids. What's he saying there?
They'll be coming shortly. I'm sure not many people keep Mr. Trudeau waiting, but clearly the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge fall into a different category altogether.
Yeah. Well, they do have 3 young kids, so maybe they get an idea of what it's like. And maybe it'd be different for him. He's kept people waiting a few times himself. You know, things you get delayed.
Yeah, I'm sure it must be the children that have probably kept them back at Government House because, you know, they really do like to stick to schedule time. They don't like to keep people waiting, and that's a leaf they've taken out the Queen's book. The Queen's pet hate is being late and people being late for her. So I think that's filtered down to her children and her grandchildren.
They're begging us to be very chips. It's my turn next.
There is something kind of funny about looking at that shot. You got, you know, some of the most powerful elected people in the country standing there
On
waiting.
a corner waiting. Yes.
In the drizzle.
Yep.
In the cold.
Yep.
There. It's like 40 minutes, actually, roughly, since they had been programmed to be arriving, the official dignitaries, in about a half an hour from when they... well, that's a good sign.
Here's the motorcade, Peter. So that looks like a promising sign.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's the front end of the motorcade. That's Victoria Harbour. You see, obviously, there in the background that runs right up to and in front of the Legislature and the Empress Hotel. So, what do you think? Will she have changed?
I'm not sure there'll have been enough time for her to have changed. It's
you
possible.
kidding?
It's possible. Yeah, but I think
she was doing for a half
40
hour?
minutes. No, but I do think that she wouldn't have kept people waiting just to get into another dress. That's not really her style. I think
Right.
the reason will probably be the children. I mean, maybe she'll have managed a quick change, but I expect she'll be.
He
what
might
she turned
actually
up
say
in.
something about it, you know, because it's a long wait. Although, you know, you keep looking at the crowds, they don't seem to care. They're more than happy to wait.
Well, they've been here long enough. Some of them have been here since 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. What's another 5 minutes?
Yeah. You know, this harbour area of Victoria has really grown up with the condos and the various buildings, new hotels over the last 20, 30 years. I used to be here a lot. My parents lived in Victoria for a while, for about 15 or 20 years, so I used to come by quite often and watch it grow in the downtown core and the whole area with the shops and restaurants. It's pretty exciting.
Well, I'm sure they'll be pleased to be based here. You know, once they've done their travelling and their hopping, they're back here for a while. And hopefully they'll get to explore some of this beautiful place.
It is interesting. I mean, they're traveling a huge area and still coming back every night.
Yeah. Well, there'll only be one night away. They'll have that night away in Whitehorse, and that's the only night they'll be away from the children. And you can you can be rest assured that the tour has been planned deliberately like that. They want to be away from the children as little as possible. That's why they brought them over here.
Right.
One night away might come as a bit of a welcome relief. Would for most parents.
Yeah, that's true.
The sound of helicopters there suggests it's moments away.
Well, we saw the motorcycles, and now we're seeing the police escorts.
Ladies and gentlemen, finally.
Finally.
Mesdames et messieurs, Leur Altesse Royale arrive. Their Royal Highnesses are arriving at the corner of Belleville and Government.
Nope, she didn't change. It was all the children, Peter.
So the GG, the PM, the BC Lieutenant Governor, and BC Premier all welcoming the royal couple to the legislative grounds. And now they'll begin their walk over to the cenotaph area first for the wreath laying and a moment of remembrance. They were rehearsing this yesterday afternoon about this time, and the bugle player, I said to him, "Oh, you must be nervous if you spend weeks getting ready for this." He said, "They called me yesterday." Oh,
Nothing
wow.
like a bit of last-minute planning there.
No kidding. Well, there he is over there, so let's see how he does. laying of the wreath completed, and now the walkabout begins. Prince recognized one of the veterans.
Vous êtes de quelle région du Canada?
Well, they're quite engaged in quite the conversation. Prince, his wife, and the veteran. We can't hear, unfortunately, but clearly.
Est-ce que vous avez visité la citadelle?
Well, you were saying earlier, Peter, you know, how much time are they going to have? Are they going to just go through the motions, or are they going to really speak to people? Well, they're really speaking to people. I think perhaps this is indicative of what we'll see over the next week.
Well, there's 20,000 people there.
We could be here for a long time, Peter.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. But as you've said, you know, the members of the royal family very much involved in the military over the years. The prince was a helicopter pilot, first in the forces, now in an ambulance service, right?
That's right.
Harry was a member of the army. Prince is their father, was in the military. Yeah. And Andrew, their uncle, was a helicopter pilot, fought in the Falklands.
That's right. It's steeped in the royal family. It's intrinsically linked. Of course, the Queen is the head of the armed forces, and one day William will be as well. So it's important that he has that connection.
Just out of microphone range, unfortunately, here. That's also protocol, though. You're not supposed to listen in.
Yep, no eavesdropping on the royal family thing.
Look at those cameras. Here's Andrew told us that there was going to be a performance by members of Songhees Nation. This is taking place here, that they'll stop to watch. Let's listen. Well, a short moment there with the traditional dance performed by the members of the Songhees Nation. briskly to the area where some of the official duties will take place. Keep in mind, for them, it's 2 in the morning, London time, or 1:45. Been a long day, but I'm assuming that they'll use the exit ramp to stop and talk to people. These are, members of the official party. Chief Justice of British Columbia is there. A number of MPs, including Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party. I'll tell you, if he gets her into a conversation about the environment, he's going to be there for a while.
Really?
Oh, she loves to talk about it. That's her passion, and it's partly his passion too. So,
well, the environment, conservationism, absolutely.
Yeah. Rear Admiral Art MacDonald, Commander of Maritime Forces Pacific, Joint Task Force Pacific. Beside him, the RCMP Commissioner, Bob Paulson.
Well, she's looking pretty fantastic, isn't she, Kate? Having just got off a long-haul flight with 2 young children. You can see why she'd have to travel with a hairdresser. Look at the intricacy of that chignon and her makeup, and the cameras, they zoom in so close. Everything is analysed. Well, she looks fantastic.
Those, I could be wrong. You would know better than I. But on top of that hat, those look like maple leaves, right?
I thought that you might be hinting at. Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
Which is a lovely nod to the host. So that hat is a replica of the hat that she wore on Canada Day. It was red, the one she wore on Canada Day. This is a replica, so I thought it looked familiar. And it's designed by Lock & Co., which is one of the oldest, most established hat makers in England, and they carry the royal warrant. And Kate often goes to Lock & Co. for her hats.
What does she do with her old hats?
Keeps them. She is the queen of recycling, actually. She's fantastic at doing it. It's Prince Charles, in fact, who pays for the royal wardrobe and all of her dresses. So I think probably to keep them happy, things are not just worn once, they're recycled and brought out with a different outfit. And she does that very well.
For those who wonder about these things, we're just being told that the Trudeaus were told, in fact, what color she would be wearing.
Oh, right, okay.
It's events like this. She's speaking now with the Speaker of the Legislature, Kate is. A lot of this tour is kind of rough and tumble, right? It's like out in the open, it's in the country, it's canoeing, it's this and that. So this is one of the few sort of kind of glamour moments she gets.
Absolutely. The dress is by Jenny Packham, we said earlier, British designer. Obviously she's in a towering pair of stilettos, but I think we're going to see a much more casual wardrobe than we've seen on previous tours. If you look at the itinerary and what it involves, you've got canoeing, you've got fishing, there's going to be a lot of walking, a lot of being outdoors, they're going to be in the Great Rainforest. So apparently they've been told to pack for 3 different climates. Thermal underwears are on the packing list, because I think they're expecting cool temperatures up in Yukon. And she's going to have to turn on the glamour stakes at events like this and at the reception later this week at Government House. But I think it'll be mostly casual, and that's all about being outdoors, being in nature, and getting out and seeing the country. That's what they want to do.
Well, certainly in conversation with members of the who are on the official welcoming party. Moving along here now, he's going through a number of MLAs and mayors, and then there are various leaders of different First Nations groups. Squamish First Nation, the First Songhees Nation, Paisakam First Nation, Pakwachan First Nation. Have you ever been to Victoria? The BC Legislature stands out day and night. At night it stands out like a birthday cake. It's lit up. It kind of strikes you at first, like, wow, does that really look right? I mean, it's like lighting up Buckingham Palace.
Well, Buckingham Palace does get lit up.
But not like this.
Not like this. I tell you what this reminds me of. There's a department store in Harrods back in the UK, and that is also lit up in a similar sort of bulbs. And as soon as I saw these lights, it just reminded me of Harrods. I can't wait till it gets dark and I can see it lit in all its splendour. I'm sure it's pretty dramatic and very beautiful.
Yeah, it's different, but you're right. It does look like Harrods does. So everybody's having a great chat. Meanwhile, there are 15 or 20,000 people out there who are
still
hoping
waiting.
They were going to get their
Still
moment.
cold.
Yeah, apparently the walkabout on the way out is going to be very much the opportunity to speak with members of the public who've come out. So we'll see whether they hold true to that desire. You mentioned to us an hour or so ago that one of the things you would be looking for on this trip was the confidence factor on the part of the Duchess. Are you seeing that just in these glimpses of the way she's talking to people?
Yes, I mean, you look at her body language, she's got plenty to say. She'll have read her briefing notes, she'll know who everyone is, she'll have thought of topics and conversations to have with them. And she's working these people independently on her own and actually letting William take the lead. And I think that's probably quite deliberate as well. I mean, I wasn't here at the time you were, Peter, but back in '86, Diana very much eclipsed Charles on that tour, didn't she?
Yeah.
And I think there's a real awareness of that and a desire not to have anything like that repeated. So while everyone is interested in Kate and what she's wearing and she does steal the headlines in that respect, when it comes to the protocol, it's always William and she's always following in his footsteps. But she's certainly doing it with more confidence, and this is a role that she took on when she married into the royal family. She knew what she was marrying into, but I think she's learned the ropes very, very quickly. It's almost like we were talking about her as a commoner before, but it is almost as though she was born to do this role. It's almost as if she was born to be a royal. She's done it so effortlessly and so faultlessly.
You watch them and we don't know what they're saying because we can't get our microphones in there to hear it, but I mean, watching him especially, because we're seeing a little more of him, I mean, he really looks like he's into it, each one of these discussions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering what time it is for them, that they are running late, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he's in a hurry at all.
No, he doesn't. And this is the official welcome ceremony, and they won't want to rush through this. I think they've made time to shake everyone's hand, to have an individual conversation with them. And you see that hand on the back. Did you notice that? That's the sign to move on. So you see that happen, and it's his way of saying, "Come on, we've got to do the next thing now."
All right, so here we, and we'll let a lot of this run by itself because it's the pomp and pageantry of an event like this. There will be the inspection of the Guard of Honor before the speeches. So let's listen in. very much engaged in the conversation with one of the members. Guard of Honor brought in from CFB Esquimalt, just a couple of kilometers away. Stopping, or usually you watch these inspections and they stop once or twice. It's kind of perfunctory, and he's really getting into it.
He is. He's taking his time, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think we're very much going to see William as a statesman out here. He's really, to me, looking and seeming more like a future head of state, taking his responsibilities very seriously. And when you see him on these official lineups, he does it very well.
For those of you who are expecting to see the National at this hour, we are obviously in an extended coverage pattern here right now, so we're sorry for those who are waiting to see the National, but instead we're going to continue our coverage here because the Duke of Cambridge will be speaking here soon after his inspection of the Guard of Honor, so Prime Minister, Governor General, BC Premier, BC Lieutenant Governor.
Yes, yeah, we do it quite a lot. Christmas concert there.
Now in conversation, I think, with the leader of the band, the Naden Band, the Royal Canadian Navy. Inspection complete. This should be another royal salute, and then we'll be into the speeches. It's the Victoria Children's Choir in the foreground there. They will also be performing as part of this. Now the official party taking its spots on the podium, then we will begin the speeches that will take place here in front of the BC Legislature. Lights are on. You're going to get a glimpse of what it looks like here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Ils sont accompagnés de the Governor General, His Excellency the Right Honorable David Johnston, and Her Excellency Sharon Johnston. The Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau. And Mrs. Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. The Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, Her Honor, the Honorable Judith Guichon. And the Premier of British Columbia, the Honorable Christy Clark. Your Royal Highnesses, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to call upon the Governor-General of Canada, His Excellency the Right Honorable David Johnston, to offer words of welcome. Vos Altesses Royales, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter le Gouverneur général du Canada, Son Excellence le très honorable David Johnston, à dire quelques mots de bienvenue.
Your Royal Highnesses, Prime Minister, Your Honor, Premier, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Let me start by acknowledging that we are gathering today on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen people, including the Shawnees and Esquimalt First Nations. Your Royal Highnesses, it's such a pleasure for us to welcome you back to Canada on Pacific time this time around. When we last welcomed you to Canada in 2011, you were on your very first tour as a married couple. Now you've come back as a family, and we couldn't be happier for you. We're delighted to welcome Prince George and Princess Charlotte to Canada for the very first time. May it be the first of many, many visits. Vous commencez aujourd'hui.
Today, you are beginning your tour in British Columbia and the Yukon. Your program will be a busy one and especially interesting. Your activities will focus on mental health, the environment, service, and many other themes that are important to you and to Canadians.
In British Columbia and Yukon, you'll be meeting with smart and caring Canadians in places such as Haida Gwaii, Bella Bella, and Carcross, to name a few. And you'll be getting around by a uniquely Canadian variation of planes, trains, and automobiles. Float plane, hovercraft, and Haida canoe. I'm sure Her Majesty approves of your adventurous spirit.
I'd like to say just how pleased we are to see you again on this 90th anniversary of our sovereign, Queen Elizabeth. As you know, we will soon be celebrating another important anniversary, the 150th anniversary of Canada in 2017.
Canada's 150th anniversary will be quite a party. And any celebration of Canada is by definition a celebration of the Crown. The Crown is such an important part of this country. It's a safeguard. It's a safeguard for our rights and freedoms, and it helps ensure the responsibility and the continuity of our government. And because the Crown's representatives are individuals, a family, it reminds us that people always come first. I want to thank you, Your Royal Highnesses, for being part of the human face of our constitutional monarchy. Je vous remercie de nous visiter à nouveau.
I want to thank you for visiting us again. You will see places and people who are quite extraordinary.
Merci.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Merci, Votre Excellence. I invite the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, to offer his remarks. J'invite le Premier ministre du Canada, le très honorable Justin Trudeau, à prendre la parole.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Victoria. Merci pour ce bel accueil.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you for that very warm welcome.
Vos Altesses Royales, c'est un privilège
Your Royal
pour moi et
Highnesses,
Sophie d'être
it is a
ici
privilege
avec
for
le
myself and
gouverneur
Sophie to be here with the Governor General, the Lieutenant Governor,
pour vous souhaiter la bienvenue au Canada. I know you've visited
This
Canada
province.
before, but as any parent who has traveled with children knows, it's a whole different experience when you bring your family with you. I want to commend you and thank you for introducing our part of the world to Prince George and Princess Charlotte. Though, let me caution you from my own experience, if they're anything like our kids, getting them back on the plane after a visit to our beautiful West Coast will really be a challenge. In addition to British Columbia, you will also have a chance to visit the Yukon, truly one of the most spectacular parts of our country. I know you will enjoy it, and I'm confident that wherever you go, Canadians will make you feel right at home. De la part de tous les Canadiens,
on behalf of all Canadians, welcome.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. I would now ask the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, son honneur l'honorable Judith Guichon, à nous adresser la parole.
Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, Prime Minister Trudeau and Madame Sophie Grégoire Trudeau, Premier Clark, Chiefs, distinguished guests, friends and family. I also wish to begin by acknowledging with respect the history, wisdom, and culture of all of our British Columbian First Nations, and in particular, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, on whose territory we're gathered today. It is an honor to welcome to Canada for the first time as a family the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and their young children. We appreciate this opportunity to celebrate the inherited traditions of our constitutional monarchy, the strong foundation of our democratic nation, and to strengthen the family relations amongst the Crown, its representative, and the First Nations and all Canadians. 2017 will be a wonderful year as we toast our sesquicentennial from sea to sea to sea. This anniversary will help our young nation grow, not in territory, but in understanding, diversity, inclusivity, ingenuity, and magnanimity. We look forward to sharing time with their Royal Highnesses as they visit the many diverse communities, the volunteers and generous British Columbians who strive to sustain and enhance our province for future generations. We are ever mindful that it is from our children and grandchildren that we borrow, and we owe them the opportunity to inherit stable communities based on clean water and healthy soils. Your Highnesses, may you enjoy safe travels and collect beautiful memories for you and your family during your visit to our province.
you, Your Honor. I would now invite the Premier of British Columbia, the Honourable Christy Clark, to give her remarks. J'invite maintenant la Première ministre de la Colombie-Britannique, l'Honorable Christy Clark, à prendre la parole.
Thank you very much, and welcome all of you to the grounds of the People's House at the Legislature of British Columbia. And thank you in particular to the Lekwungen people, the Esquimalt, the Songhees First Nation, for welcoming us to your traditional lands with such grace and such a warm welcome. Thank you very, very much. Your Royal Highnesses, welcome to British Columbia and to Canada. Prime Minister Trudeau, Mrs. Trudeau, thank you very much as well. Lieutenant Governor Guichon, and of course, our Governor General, David Johnston, and his wife Sharon, thank you for joining us. This city is named after Prince George and Princess Charlotte's great, 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 great grandmother. That is 5 greats. And Queen Victoria certainly deserved 5 greats. She was a strong, determined, and resilient woman. And I think she'd be very proud of this city and the people in it, in the city that bears her name so proudly. In British Columbia, we are also so proud of the incredible ecosystems and wildlife that you can find here that are found nowhere else on the globe. And we look very much forward to showing those to you, Your Royal Highnesses, in your visit. Our people are diverse, our communities are diverse. This entrepreneurial, warm, historic city of Victoria. We'll go to the beautiful Okanagan and its desert-like climate. We'll go to Haida Gwaii and experience the most beautiful First Nations, some of the most beautiful First Nations culture you can find. And we will also go to the Great Bear Rainforest, a gift of the people of British Columbia to the world. 7% of our entire province set aside to protect the ancient trees, the white bears, and that ecosystem that is so fragile. Protected for the world by the people of British Columbia forever. And so last, Your Royal Highnesses, Victoria is an historic city, and it's often a place where we can think of our shared history and our shared present. When we take you to Great Bear Rainforest, you will get a chance to experience the pristine wilderness where we experience and think about our shared future. And now, to help me welcome Your Highnesses to British Columbia, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Victoria Children's Choir singing Gai le Rossier and I Am the Song. Thank you. Merci.
children's choir. And now, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Cambridge, Son Altesse Royale, le Duc de Cambridge.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Your Honour, Premier, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is a pleasure to be welcomed in such a beautiful setting, here on the traditional Lekwungen territory, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Catherine and I are delighted to be back in Canada. When we were here last time, we'd been married only 3 months. The warm welcome that you gave us at that important moment in our lives meant a lot to us, and we have never forgotten it. That is why we are so pleased that George and Charlotte can be with us in Canada this time around, beginning their own lifetime of friendship with this wonderful country. Over the next week, Catherine and I will see once again what makes Canada such a special place in the world. Canada is a country much esteemed for its strong values and for the great contribution it makes to peace, prosperity, and human rights. This week, we will witness much of that ourselves through the diversity of the Canadian people, your pristine environment, your armed services, and other public servants, as well as your arts and your culture. Catherine and I have asked to meet as many people from as many walks of life as we can while we are here. We are very much looking forward to learning about how Canadians are tackling some of the biggest challenges of the day, including the environment, supporting young families, and the mental health of young people, subjects about which we are both passionate. We are very grateful to the Canadian government and the governments of British Columbia and Yukon for putting together a unique program for us. We feel very fortunate to have time to get to really know parts of this country that we did not get to visit in 2011, but of which I have very happy memories as a shy teenager. Yeah. A few of you remember it too well, I think. One final word, if I may, about 2 important milestones. As Canada approaches its 150th anniversary next year, we're excited to meet and interact with the young people who will lead this country into its next few decades. And in the year of the Queen's 90th birthday, I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to thank the people of Canada for the warmth and generosity they've extended to my grandmother throughout her reign. The Queen has asked me to extend her warmest greetings to you and her thanks for all the goodwill you have shown her during her 90th birthday year. Nous sommes très heureux d'être de retour au Canada.
We are very pleased to be back in Canada. We thank you for coming out in such large numbers to welcome us. And we also want to thank you for agreeing to share with us the beauty of this magnificent country.
It's a little rusty, work with me. Catherine, George, Charlotte and I are very pleased to be here. Thank you for welcoming us so warmly. Merci.
Highness. Ladies and gentlemen, I now ask you to rise and join with the Victoria Children's Choir and the Naden Band of Royal Canadian Navy in the singing of our national anthem, Au Canada. Je vous invite à vous joindre au Victoria Children's Choir et à la musique de Naden de la Marine Royale Canadienne pour chanter notre hymne national.
General salute! Present!
And now the official signing the books, that table actually that they're about to sign the visitors' books, both for BC and the Canada book. That table was made in 1983 here for a visit from Queen Elizabeth, and there's a plaque on the table recognizing that fact. So the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge signed the books now.
And of course, Peter, that maple brooch is on loan from the Queen, a gift to her from Canada. Well, initially to the Queen Mother, I think.
To the Queen Mother, absolutely. You wore it in '39. On that visit, would have worn it here in Victoria. But it does need the permission of the Queen to use it. And she hasn't always given that permission, from what I've heard. So, interesting to listen to those speeches and how they flowed. Will and Kate will now, I think this is where they're actually going to have more of an opportunity after the Victoria Foster. She got her presents here thanks to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. 14 years old, actually, 13 or 14. She's has cystic fibrosis. She presents flowers to the Duchess. She looks pretty overwhelmed by it, pretty excited by the moment, not surprisingly.
Well, she's getting plenty of airtime with them. She must be delighted.
Yeah. won't they? Are they going to go in and talk to the crowd?
Well, she's expecting a bouquet of flowers, but it doesn't look like they're going to stop and pose too much. Usually the Duchess has someone to take these bouquets of flowers for her.
I know. This usually drives security people crazy because they don't know what's in those packages, and suddenly they're being carried by, well, she's moved them on, and they've gone through an aide-de-camp, and they will be used. Obviously, they're looked at and carefully, and usually end up in a hospital. Well, here they go into the crowd a little bit here now.
So if you want to get to speak to a royal, bring a large bouquet of flowers or a child, I would suggest.
Christy Clark, Premier of BC, and her son. Moving on there. There's the... oh, there's a handshake. You know, it's a story about Edward when he was here in 1919, the future king, who then abdicated. He was the Prince of Wales, was here on that tour. It went 2 months, the tour of Canada that he was on, that he was so tired from shaking hands, they had to switch to his left hand from his right hand.
2 months, wow. This is relatively short then.
Yeah. Well, it was a different time, you know. They traveled by train across the country, but he was the original rock star. I mean, he had quite the time here. They still talk about it. He ended up buying a ranch in Alberta.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you see what I mean, what I was saying earlier, Peter, about how they will split and work different sides of the crowd. You know, you didn't see so much of that back in 2011. Duchess tended to stick quite close to William, but she's, look how confident she is. And the crowd look absolutely delighted to be able to have that chance to speak to her, probably asking how George and Charlotte fared on the flight. Oops, the bouquet goes flying. Need an extra pair of hands though.
And for those hockey fans who are wondering, the big game against Russia tonight, the semi-final in the World Cup, looks like Canada has it well in hand with 5 minutes left in the game. It's 5-2 Canada over Russia. Now, a lot of things can happen in 5 minutes, but usually that's only if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, so Canada should be safe in that game. That was the old Leafs, I know. It's not the new Leafs. It never happened with Austin Matthews. The final moments of this special arrival ceremony outside the BC Legislature in Victoria, and they've been piling up the flowers here for Will and Kate. And he's breaking all the old rules. In there, handshakes, taking flowers, holding on to the flowers.
It's unusual for William to accept flowers, actually. He usually leaves that to his staff, but they're both, like you say, very hands-on.
Yeah. Justin Trudeau working the lines as well. He got a huge, applause.
Well, he's clearly hugely popular here. I mean, he's like a rock star, isn't he?
He's a rock star, and it's rare a year after an election, which we're coming up on a year, for you still to be a rock star. He's running, upwards of close to 50% of the polls, which also means that half the country is not there for him. But they weren't the ones who were represented here today. He got a huge round of applause.
He did. He absolutely did.
It rivaled or bettered the Duke of Cambridge. Sharon Johnson, that's the Governor General's wife, with the Duchess of Cambridge.
And you see, the Duchess is moving more swiftly down the crowds. I think she's really worked out her timing now. She's not taking too long, shaking just enough hands, having a quick word, and moving on. There's a lot of people to work through this afternoon.
What's she got in her hands there? Is that her purse?
That's her clutch. A small clutch, which is a purse, a little clutch bag. She's a real fan of clutch bags.
I'm learning so much today. I'm learning about hats and clutches.
See, I told you, bring a baby. She'll stop and talk.
I'm really loving it. It's good to know. You're beautiful.
And she really has this ability to put people at ease. She's always got something to say to each person.
Almost make out these conversations.
Now that lady next to Peter is her private secretary, her girl Friday, and really the person I would say she relies on most in the official entourage.
Well, the thank yous now taking place here with the Governor General, Premier of BC, Prime Minister. Into their limousines, and they'll head back now to BC's Government House, where Charlotte and George, one assumes, are fast asleep after an extremely long day.
William and Kate won't be able to retire just yet, though. Of course, they'll have some meetings back at Government House, and then that will be the close of their official programme for today. And I'm sure they'll be feeling pretty exhausted by now. It's quite punishing, that jet lag.
The jet lag, and even I'm sure they have well, that is a great plane. That's the special plane that's used by Prime Minister and Governor General. It's all decked out, and it's much better than your normal flight. But nevertheless, air travel can be exhausting, especially when you're going through time zones like that. So the royal procession and the Prime Minister, the Governor General, and, that's just the royal procession. See the Governor General still standing there, and the Premier, and the Prime Minister. So they will now await their vehicles as they will now head off as well. Governor General coming near the end of his term. He was extended right through until fall of next year. Next year's going to be a big year, as you heard the Will acknowledge in his remarks. 2017, the 150th anniversary of the country's birth. There will be lots of events, lots of official ones that the Governor General will be taking part in for sure. Premier, Christy Clark, got an election coming up in the spring. Races here in BC are always fascinating, always interesting. The last one, remember, for Christy Clark, 2013, I believe, it looked like she was not going to win. In fact, everybody thought she was going to lose. And not only did she win, she won a majority government. So she's a little bit down in the polls right now, at least the last poll I saw. But obviously, from what we saw happen last time, it would be unwise to make any predictions yet, if ever. All right, that looks like everybody's more or less accounted for and heading into their vehicles as the Premier waves goodbye to the crowd. And there they go. All right, let's go back into the crowd that's left on the main lawns outside the Legislature and see how that all went over with people. Andrew Chang. Andrew.
Yeah, well, Peter, I don't think I've ever seen so many selfie sticks in one place at one time. Right? Everyone just trying to capture a memory that they can take home with them. And everyone was pretty excited. And I remember for all the talk that there was about royal protocol and etiquette and the right way to shake a hand, the bow, the curtsy, I met a guy just a couple of minutes ago who sort of broke all the rules, and he's got an incredible story to tell. Patrick Wilson joining us right now. Hi, Patrick.
How you doing?
Good. Tell me what happened.
Well, Prime Minister's walking by. He came back and hand punched me there.
He gave you a fist bump?
Yes, fist bump, yeah.
And was this from far away, or?
Yeah, he came back about 2 feet and he hand punched.
Okay, but this was a physical fist, like you touched fists with the Prime Minister?
Yeah. I want to have a talk with him too, just tell him what a great job he's doing and all that, so, yeah.
And why was it so important for you to be here?
Just see how the Prince William and, what's her name, and Sophie and Prince Trudeau, so, yeah.
Well, hey, you got a lot of memories to take home with you. Thank you so much, Patrick. And Peter, it's just a cool moment on a pretty cool day.
Prince William and what's her name? Why not? That'll be one memory you'll certainly have. Let's go to Natalie Collada. She's also had a chance to talk to people in the crowd. Natalie.
Well, Peter, I'm actually here with Tam and Ty. And speaking of, taking home memories of this day, you guys got something pretty special. Tell me what you got.
Yeah, we got a couple of videos of them walking by us, and it was so great to have that footage. Yeah.
What was it like to see them up close, to see them there?
It was like totally different. Like you see them on TV every day, like Trudeau in his election, like in Ottawa and everything. But like seeing him right there in person, like really changed like how I view him and everything. Like
how so?
I don't know, just like he really comes out to like people, like wants to like do public things like this and everything. So it was super cool, like seeing him right there.
That's a really interesting experience that you guys get to take home. Not only that, but you got to see William and Kate and really up close. What was that like?
That was great, honestly. Like Ty was saying, you see them in TV and everything, but being here, they're real people, They're just like us, but I mean, obviously not just like us. But yeah, it was great, honestly, seeing them. It was just one-in-a-lifetime experience.
And when you look back on this day, what will you remember?
Honestly, I'll just remember being here and just like having them, just walk by so close to us, like, I don't know, just the whole experience, really.
Because one of the interesting moments, Peter, is when William was actually walking by our television camera, right behind where you guys were standing. He said, "Hey, guys," and you can kind of see everyone's face was a little like, "Oh, okay, hi," a little bit of shock, a little bit of surprise. Thank you so much for talking to me. There you go, Peter. A little bit of the memories from people here today.
All right, Natalie, thanks very much. And Katie, it's like what you talked about at the beginning of the show. There is this kind of freeze moment when people go, "Oh my God!"
I told you it happens
real.
all the
They're
time.
right
but suddenly you forget Catherine's name, and people do tend to just almost go to jelly over it, because as those people in the crowds were saying, they're really there. They're in front of you. The people that you see on television all the time. they're there. And I think there's just a moment where sometimes you almost forget who you are, where you are, and who they are. but William and Kate, you could see that when they were working the crowds in the Walkabout, they had something to say for everyone, didn't they? And made those people, if they were nervous, feel, I'm sure, very at ease.
It does. There's people can go overboard on this stuff. I mean, let's face it, they only were with the public for 15 or 20 minutes, but yet in those 15 or 20 minutes with the people they touched, they really, it really had an impact. And it is a special art to turn, and you can talk to anybody who's involved in this kind of stuff, is to turn small talk into something that's meaningful for the person you're involved in small talk.
Absolutely, and the point is, it will be one of many hands that William and Kate shake on this trip, but for that hand and that person, it might be the moment of a lifetime. So it has to matter. What they say has to matter, and it does.
Let's go back to a couple of hours ago, because we've got a couple of minutes here before we sign off. And once again, if you've been expecting to watch the National this hour, obviously we were in extended coverage of the arrival of Will and Kate in Canada, and this was how it all started. About 4 o'clock BC time here, Victoria time, when the plane landed, the Canadian Armed Forces jet that brought the royal family over from London, Kate, Will, George, and Charlotte. And there was your first glimpse. And, for those who didn't see this at the time, Katie, tell us why this is such a big deal, especially for you back home in Britain.
Because quite simply, Peter, one of the very, very rare times that we've seen them in public as a family of four. And it's Princess Charlotte's first overseas tour. We've seen very little of her. We've seen very little of Prince George. So we're just as excited as you guys are over here to be seeing them as a foursome. And I think there's a lot of anticipation about this moment, when that door opened, who was going to be holding Charlotte, who would be holding George, what would they be wearing, would the children be awake even, after a 9-hour flight? And
why is it so important?
Because
do so many people in Britain get so wound up about this?
I don't just think it's people in Britain. I really do think it's an international thing. I think this young couple, when they married in 2011, their fairy tale romance, it was a story that captured not just Britain, but the world. And we've watched them grow up. We've watched their relationship develop from a university romance. We had the royal wedding. Now we've got these two gorgeous children. They are the future of the monarchy. This is the image of the future, and it's a beautiful image. It's a promising image. It offers us hope and a sunny future for the House of Windsor, and I think that's why it's so important.
And you're right. It does go beyond Britain, and you wrote a book on Kate.
I did. Kate, the Future Queen. Yes.
And it was on bestseller lists, not just in Britain, but in the States, in Canada. It in fact sold really well in Canada.
It did, in fact, so well that we gave a special jacket for the Canadians that was done in red and white. But I think the point about the book and why it did so well was because we knew very little about Kate when she married into the royal family. And what I wanted to do was really find out about this young woman and who she really was.
What was the one thing that surprised you more than anything?
That she'd met Prince William when she was at school. I hadn't known that, so for me that was absolutely fascinating. And
this was at school in St Andrews.
School when she was at Marlborough and William was at Eton. So in fact, when they met at St Andrews, exactly, they had actually they'd met before, and maybe that's destiny. Maybe it was in the stars and it was always meant to be. They certainly look very happy, very in love, very together.
Okay, well, that was the scene at the airport, and you saw what happened here. Both George and Charlotte back at the BC Government House, where they're staying all throughout this week, and they're into bed, straight out of the plane, into the limo, into the house, and into bed. given the hours difference. We got to close up shop here, but I want to get some final thoughts, especially from Andrew Chang and Natalie Collada, who've been so great working for us and with us on the ground here outside the BC Legislature. Andrew, why don't you go first? What's your thought out of this?
Well, I think the thing that I find most striking about all of this is just the scope of the visit. And I don't just mean that in terms of the range of activities that they'll be undertaking, but the scope of the people that they want to meet. And you saw glimmers of that today, right? From the Prime Minister to the Governor General, to the military, to veterans, to volunteers, to members of the Indigenous community, new immigrants, everyday people just hanging here behind the security fences. I think the really interesting question to come will be how lasting of an impression will the royal couple have made by the end of the tour. But I will say this, that one moment that I think really stood out for me was I was watching, just as the royal couple were making their way by on the red carpet, a little girl with her smartphone had taken a photo. She looked down at her phone, scrolled through the photos that she had taken, and the smile on her face when she saw the photo that she managed to take, she gave 2 big thumbs up to her dad. Big smile, and I think that's probably going to be a memory that she'll ride for the next couple days at least.
Yeah, I bet you're right about that. Listen, Andrew, as always, thanks very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Andrew Chang. And now let's check in with Natalie Collada. Natalie, your final thought.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. We hear so much about the royal couple, but to see them in person, to see them really interact with people, that was really special. They took their time, William in particular, speaking to people, and he didn't seem rushed. He didn't seem, you know, like it was a formality. He seemed, at least generally, very interested in speaking to people and making a connection with them. And then to see people's response to that, I think was pretty amazing. I think what is very clear in this tour is that William and Kate, while they are royal, they are making connections, at least with the younger generation, becoming more relatable, and that's really coming through, particularly when we heard, you know, Prince William speak French in his speech, and then, you know, he said, "Oh, I'm a little rusty," and he got a laugh from the crowd, really warming to him, that showing a little bit of that vulnerability. And I think that's what will stand out to me personally as I look back on this, is the humanity of the couple, because so often we put them up on a pedestal, but really to see them interact with people and to seem to really appear to care. So that's what I'll remember. Peter?
All right, Natalie, thanks very much, and thanks for all your work today. Also to Briar Stewart, who was with us out from the airport and is now caught somewhere with the media throngs, and will be filing later tonight for the National. All right, Katie, your turn. What does all this mean to you today?
Well, the highlight for me was certainly, I think, when they came down the steps on that plane together, and there was a very sweet moment when George was holding his father's hand, but you could see him trying to find Mummy's hand, and she instinctively knew that, and she reached out her hand while holding Charlotte, and they came down, the four of them together, and for me that was just a very special image. And actually, I wasn't too unimpressed with William's French. He said it was rusty. I thought it was pretty good.
He used that line last time round too, when he did a little bit in French in one of his speeches in 2011. He was a little worried about things. Katie, as always, great to have you with us. Know you'll be helping throughout this week on News Network's coverage. Lots of coverage throughout the week of the visit, and on the National as well, including later on tonight. I'm Peter Mansbridge in Victoria. Thanks for watching today. Check us out online as well. Lots of coverage there.
feel very fortunate to have time to get to really know parts of this country that we did not get to visit in 2011, but which